this on my computer, and we're gonna go ahead and get started. So ladies, as you see people popping in, if you can also let them in, you should have that, you should be able to accept them in, okay? All right, so let me go ahead and share my screen here. And thank you for your patience. So. All right, good. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. All right. All right, hello everyone. How's everyone doing? Thank you for joining us, Margie McLean Foundation, on one of our second webinars, domestic violence awareness webinars called When Love Hits Home, Chronicles of Domestic Abuse. The purpose of this webinar is to get awareness about domestic abuse and also to dispel the myths of domestic abuse. What I decided to do was to ask who would love to share their stories, and I received some great feedback from the ladies that you see here on our who are on the webinar. And pretty much we're just going to be answering questions, and we also are going to, they will be sharing their perspective and also their story and their experience being in a domestic abuse relationship. So just to give you a little background about myself, my name is Margie McLean. I am the founder and president of the Margie McLean Foundation. The purpose of my foundation is to have educational seminars in our communities on things that affect us as women and also our youth. I also do different community service projects in our community. Some of the projects that I have done is Toy for Peds, where we collect toys for those who are in the hospitals and cannot have an opportunity to be home for Christmas, and maybe their parents can't afford a toy. So we want to make sure those kids are able to have a Christmas within the hospital. Other programs that we have done is the community service baby shower, and that is for young ladies and mothers who are having a child and maybe they do not have all of the necessary items to get them started in motherhood, so we help them with that. Another program that I have is called Ladies Equality, and that is a mentoring program for young girls in middle school and high school. The purpose of the Margie McLean Foundation actually was actually started actually named after my grandmother, whose name is Margie McLean. And so she was a woman who helped in the community. She was pretty much like the mama or the big mama of the community. Anybody needed anything, she was the person to go to. And so when I started my organization, I wanted to fashion this behind her, which of course I got her name as well. So I guess I'm special. I'm the special grandchild. So with that being said, I started off with Ladies Equality, and we formed it at St. Paul's High School. And then eventually when I moved to Maryland and Virginia, I then also went and started the organization there. And as you can see, some of the things that we do is the Adopt a Highway, the college field trip, which was really good. We have a lot of students who went on these field trips, and they decided to go to college and now has graduated. The main organization program that we do also is the Girl Empowerment and Leadership Summit, where we bring women and men from the community to actually do workshops for our students. So to get started, the first thing I wanted to do was to introduce our keynote speaker, who is a soror of mine. Her name is Sabrina Mackey, and I just want to tell a little bit about Sabrina and pull up her real quick. You can let her that person in, whoever that is. All right, so excuse me. All right, so just to tell a little bit about Sabrina. Sabrina is an investigator for the Youth Family Service in Mecklenburg County. She is the CEO and founder of Refocus Refine LLC, a company who is dedicated to helping individuals through coaching based upon evidence and faith-based practices to equip them with coping with life challenges. She is a licensed minister, author, and self-publisher, as well as a doctoral candidate at North Central. And so with that being said, she's going to be the next voice. I'm going to show us a quick video, and she is going to be the next voice after that.
Everyone listened when 22-year-old Jaleesa Walls Harris lifted her voice to sing. She unleashed her range in church, in contests, and in verse. She wanted to be a star and use her talents to help others, particularly her half-sister Tarika Jones. Jaleesa's mom can't seem to shake one of her last conversations with her daughter Jaleesa and Tarika. There was a problem, and Jaleesa's mom was trying to help.
No woman deserves to be hit on. I don't care what. I said, you should never let yourself be beat up. Never. So Jaleesa said, see, I told you, Tarika, my mother wouldn't be going for that. And I was like, is it you? And she's like, no. And she was just quiet.
What do you wish you had said to Tarika in that moment?
I would have just hugged her. And I keep looking at the chair because that's where she was sitting. And I would have kissed her and told her that I love you. You don't deserve this.
You see, Jaleesa's mom had no idea that Tarika, her daughter's half-sister, was in trouble. 26-year-old Tarika Jones was a devoted mother of 3 young girls. By all accounts, she loved cooking meals and telling the world about her sweet babies on social media. A place that did not showcase this man, 30-year-old Kevin Reynolds, the father of her youngest daughter and former boyfriend.
From my understanding, they just had a strange relationship, an on and off relationship.
And according to police documents, it was volatile at times. Tarika told Kevin she wanted to move on. Police think that sent Kevin into a jealous rage. Let me take you back to a night in February. Tarika called police for help 2 times that night. Kevin was supposed to drop their daughter off, but that handoff quickly turned violent. Here's what Tarika wrote in her witness statement to police. At like 6 p.m., Kevin's supposed to drop our daughter off to me, and when he got here, I went on the opposite side of the car to get my daughter. He rushed at me and grabbed me and threw me to the ground. He continued to pick me up and toss me. After I finally could get to my feet, I ran to my neighbor's house and he took my phone and threw it because I said I was calling the police. More than an hour later, this happened. And we want to warn you, what you're about to hear is graphic and some of the language is raw.
Hello?
This is Construction 911. What's the address of your location? Ma'am.
5527. I'm trying to pull out a gun for that.
This is a house or apartment?
It's an apartment.
Everything is chaos out here in this parking lot. Tarika is here, Kevin is here, Kevin's mother is here, even the father of Tarika's other two daughters is here. And remember that police statement? Well, Tarika speculates this is why things got out of hand. She wrote, "He must have thought that I called my other baby father, so he went to a truck and got a gun. As I seen him running towards me, I run towards my car to call the police. His mother came in the car to grab my phone saying, 'That's her son. Don't call the police.'"
It doesn't matter because you're going to get my son, you can't sue.
That "you" Tarika refers to is Kevin's mother. Kevin is arrested and charged with assaulting Tarika, but she's at a crossroads. She has 3 small girls to raise, and the man who helps her do that is in jail.
Kevin Reynolds, 2B570698.
3 weeks later, Tarika and Kevin are together again for a bond hearing. You're going to hear the actual audio of the courtroom proceedings. It didn't take long. Listen to how Judge Joseph Wright wrestles with and ultimately makes a decision that would change lives forever.
Mr. Reynolds is currently being held in no bond. We are asking that you set a bond, Your Honor, to a $5,000 bond with a 10% option and pretrial release.
I have had occasion to speak to Ms. Jones. She indicates that she is not in fear of him and that she in fact wants him home.
The facts read as a fairly violent episode. And then if I look at his record, destruction, conviction for assault, which is what this case is actually charged as, first-degree assault. Another conviction for assault, a weapons conviction as well. He believes he got off of probation 2 days ago.
Ms. Jones disputes some of the allegations in the statement of charges, Your Honor. I believe that a $5,000 bond is appropriate in this matter.
I disagree. For all the reasons I said, for public safety, for the record, for the way the facts read, if I'll set a bond, it'll be $20,000.
So that's it. Kevin is out of jail. And Tarika, a young mother of 3, had no idea what had been set in motion. So that brings us back to Jaleesa. She and her half-sister Tarika would sometimes go weeks or months without seeing each other. But Tarika reached out to Jaleesa after that parking lot incident with Kevin.
Jaleesa came downstairs one day, all excited, and said, Mom, guess what? Guess who hit me up on Facebook? And I was like, who? And she said, it was Tarika. She said she misses me. And I miss her too, Mom. I was like, okay.
The sisters were supposed to hang out on a Monday night, just 5 days after Kevin got out of jail. Jaleesa's mom was concerned about Tarika's influence on her daughter.
And I just said, just be careful. Just be careful. Guard your heart.
And I just came home and heard gunshots.
The ladies there that live in the apartment, they are on the ground. Lost friends all over the place.
It was the shots I heard that woke me up. Bam, bam, bam.
Just after 10 p.m. on March 7th, police say Kevin knocked on the door of Tarika's Chevrolet apartment. He had a gun. He walked in and fired the shots, hitting Tarika and Jaleesa. They died under a kitchen table on the floor. Then Kevin fled, leaving Tarika's 3 girls, one of them his own daughter, in the next room. It could have been worse. Tarika's grandmother lived there too. She wasn't prepared for what she was getting ready to see.
No, not at all. She was coming back, from my understanding, from work, and this is what she came home to.
And she was saying, Reed, what have you done to yourself? And Reed was underneath the table, the other girls on the other side of the table, and they both slumped and like in a knot.
The next day, Kevin's body was found 100 miles away in Hanover County, Virginia, slumped in his getaway car, shoes off, with a gunshot to the head. In just a matter of hours, 3 people are dead: Tarika, Kevin, and Jaleesa, who was caught in the middle.
I raised my kids to steer clear of that, but that in itself wasn't enough.
The Domestic Violence Fatality Review Team in Prince George's County points out all the signs that appear to be on the horizon between Tarika and Kevin. You've got this relationship with escalating tension and violence that Tarika was trying to end, lengthy contact with the justice system, family members who witnessed and knew about the abuse, and that recanted statement from the incident in February. Tarika needed Kevin to help pay the bills.
We do our level best every day to keep people safe. This is what we are here to do. And in a case like this one where we fail to do that, it is our worst nightmare.
An unforeseen turn of events because Tarika changed her story.
What we knew is what she said. I'm not fearful. I'm okay with him coming home. If this didn't happen the way that the charging document says it happens, and I'm the person to know.
This may be a turning point for the way Prince George's County handles these kinds of cases going forward. State's Attorney Angela Alsobrooks admits her office made a mistake.
If there are certain convictions, a certain history, it doesn't matter what the victim says. His or her desire is, we have to make an objective decision that doesn't always include the victim.
What the state's attorney is saying here is important. She's saying we can't always listen to what the victims are saying because sometimes they don't realize how much danger they're in. She's saying we simply can't afford to do that anymore.
It would have saved my daughter's life, who had nothing to do with it. I'm definitely mad, because had he been in jail, my daughter would be here.
We weren't allowed to talk to Judge Joseph Wright about what happened in his courtroom. Dr. Tricia Bent-Goodley is in charge of the team that reviews these cases in Prince George's County.
In many of these cases, that perpetrator has made a decision that this is what's going to happen. And it's just a matter of when they execute it. It really does require us very early on talking about what does it mean to love someone? What does it mean to respect someone? When you don't see that, you need to pay attention to it.
My baby father.
These women have all been caught in the spin cycle of domestic violence. They say healing starts with knowing what's broken in the first place.
All right, so we are going to move on to our next part. I just want to give that, when I saw that story on YouTube, I thought that would be a good opening for this seminar to see some of the things that we will talk about. Also possibly look at this video and see what were some of the things that, not blaming the victim, but what were some of the things that we saw that slipped through the cracks? What were some of the things that we saw that was red flags? What were some of the things that possibly could have changed her life if she would have done things differently? So with that being said, we're gonna go ahead with our first, with our keynote speaker, Sabrina Mackey. Let her go ahead and take over and share her screen, and she will be the next voice you hear.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you all can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. That video has chills running through me right now. I'll give a little of my story at the end of this presentation. But like I was introduced, my name is Sabrina Mackey. I am the CEO of Refocus to Redefine LLC, and I am also a social worker. Of course, what brings us to this topic of domestic violence, this is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. What is domestic violence? I want you all to think about it. Think about your definition of it. It's defined as a pattern of behavior in any relationship that is used to gain, maintain power, and control over an intimate partner. What is abuse? Abuse can be physical, sexual, emotional, economic, psychological actions, threats of actions that influence another person, which can include behaviors that are frightening, intimidation, terrorize, manipulate, hurt, humiliate, blame, injure, or wound someone.
Sora, if you can you share your PowerPoint, because the PowerPoint is
It's still not sharing. Okay.
So share your screen.
Okay. I thought it was sharing. Here we go. Can you guys see? Okay. Who can be a victim of domestic violence? Anyone. Anyone. Any race, any age, any sexual orientation, any economic class, any immigration status, any religion, any gender. Couples that are married, living together, or anyone who are in a dating status or in entanglement. Who can domestic violence affect? It affects all people, including victims, including family members, friends, co-workers, anyone. You just don't have to have a high school diploma or a GED. You can have your PhD and you become affected by domestic violence. You can be a millionaire and be affected by domestic violence. Ask yourself, does the person you love threaten to hurt you or other people you care about? Hit, kick, punch, push, choke, or use physical force against you? Criticize or blame you for everything that's going wrong? Humiliate you in front of others? Control your access to money? Control the decision-making in your relationship? Control your time and actions? Put you down? Call you names? Make you feel like you're crazy? Destroy your property? Abuse your pet? Threaten to hurt you or commit suicide if you leave? Force or coerce you to have sex when you don't want to? Did you answer yes to any of those questions? If you did, you may be in an abusive relationship. I just want to tell you, you are not alone. You did not cause the violence, and no one has the right to hurt you. What does domestic violence look like? Emotional abuse. Someone saying, you look fat today, you're stupid, you're never going to amount to anything, who's going to want you, and you have children. Economical abuse. You work in a minimum wage job, you're dating someone possibly maybe with a six-figure salary, or you're a stay-at-home mom and you get an allowance only to buy groceries or nothing for yourself. You don't even have access to the bank account. Physical abuse. Bruises, broken bones, black eyes, missing teeth, scars. Psychological abuse. When you're around this individual, you have a panic attack. Sexual abuse, having unwanted sex when you really don't want to. Love does not hurt. Physical violence, power and control. And we've talked about these things. Males using their privilege, even using the children to get in between. Isolation is a big one, keeping you from your family and your friends. Intimidation. always blaming you, telling you things are your fault. Did you know 1 in 4 women will be victims of severe violence by an intimate partner in their lifetime? Did you also know that 1 in 7 men will be victims of severe violence by an intimate partner in their lifetime? 3 to 4 times, men who were exposed to domestic violence as children are 3 to 4 times more likely to be perpetrator interpartner violence as adults than men who do not experience domestic violence as children. Let me just break it down, layman's term. If a male has experienced domestic violence in the home, he is more likely to be a perpetrator. Domestic violence is the 3rd leading cause of homelessness for families. Let's talk about some myths and facts. Myths. Domestic violence only happens to women. That is a myth. It happens to men. Drug, alcohol, stress, and mental illness are the cause of domestic violence. That is a myth. The fact of the matter is, while drug and alcohol and stress and mental illnesses are factors, they are not the root cause. Another myth. Abusers are just out of control and need anger management. That's a myth. A fact, they actually need some counseling and they don't need to be controlling. Myth, domestic violence is always physical abuse. That is absolutely a myth. That is I'm going to say that again. It's always not physical. Some of those factors of emotional, sexual, psychological, economical, it's not always physical. Sometimes some of the most dangerous ones are not, where you can't even see. You can't see them. Another myth, if a victim does not leave, it must not be that bad, or they are okay with how they are being treated. Myth, myth, myth. Sometimes when a victim is afraid to leave because they feel like they can't make it on their own. They feel like they need the help. Or the perpetrator will say, I love you, I will never do it again. If anyone out there is experiencing any type of domestic violence, please contact the hotline. It is 24/7. It is confidential. That number is 1-800-799-7233, or please reach out to the police department in your area via 911. I did use some resources. I like to give credit where credit is due. I got information from the hotline.org and waadvocate.org. Like I said in the beginning, my company's name is Refocus to Redefine LLC. I do offer additional services. My contact information is on the screen if you would like to have it to refer someone to me, or you would like to have it for yourself. The phone number is 980-206-3777. My email is refocus2redefine@gmail.com. That concludes. Let me see if I can go ahead and unshare this. Stop sharing it. Oops. Let me see. There we go. Stop sharing it. That was just a brief snippet of some different things concerning domestic violence. What does domestic violence look like? or what does a domestic survivor may look like? I'm going to point to me. I am a domestic violence survivor. I was a teen domestic violence survivor for 3 years, from the time of being 18 up until the time of 20. Come from a 2-parent background. Father was a minister, youngest of 6, so I had big brothers. Got into a relationship, ended up getting pregnant. I remember getting beat with a payphone. Now, I know I feel like I'm really, really old, but we all know those payphones were really hard. I literally, the first incident happened, he beat me with the payphone. Bleeding, blood everywhere. I had some high school friends actually see me because we were at a closed store. They noticed my parents' car and they went to my parents' house. My dad came, kind of found me, and took me home. I acted like nothing had happened. I just said we were arguing. The next day, the young man came to my job and said, you know, hey, I love you. It'll never happen again. I have been drinking. If they ever come out of their mouth and say, I love you and it will never happen again, it's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. I guarantee you it's going to happen again. If you have small children and you are going through a domestic violence issue, think about your children. Because my children saved my life. My child saved my life before she was even born, because one of the many incidents down the road after I kept taking him back when he said, oh, I love you, it'll never happen again, was I was getting choked and I was 9 months pregnant with my daughter. And it was people around. They didn't try to pull him off of me or anything. They just said, standing on the outside looking in the window saying, man, you need to get off her. She pregnant. That's it. No one helped me. Someone did call my father again. And by that time I had gotten a loose from him and I was running into the kitchen and I had gotten a knife and I was like, leave me alone. And I had the knife pointed and he was walking closer to the knife. And at that moment, I heard my father call me by my full government name. And he said, put the knife down. And I immediately stopped, laid the knife down on the counter, and literally walked out of the house that I was in. And people say, why did you keep going back? Because no one knows what it looks like when you're in love and that person loves you and is manipulative and tell you all these things. You don't have your family around you or in your ear saying, okay, he's lying. They're not with you when you're alone with this person and they see the different side. But hey, I was 18. I was very gullible. I knew everything but didn't know anything. But I knew enough to know that my children needed me more. And I didn't want my parents to lose a child that way. I get faced with domestic violence day in and day out, and I read case reports and I look at Facebook posts and people think that they can't leave, they don't want to leave, and start making a plan. There are so many resources out here. Of course, there's not enough money for the things that we really need to do to help domestic violence, but I guarantee you, if you reach out to an individual and you say, look, I'm getting hit on, someone is going to help you. Someone is going to assist you. If I can be of any service to anyone, if you got to reach out to the foundation to get my information again, please do so. I hope this helps someone today. Thank you.
Wow. Wow, that was deep. I can listen to some more, but we're going to get into the questions later. Thank you so much. I hope this helped someone and it actually answer some of the questions that we had from some of the audience that I asked. And so thank you so much. I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of your story when we move to the second part. Again, if you have any questions, please add them to the chat. If you are on Facebook Live, add it to the live. If you have any questions that you feel that you would like to us to answer, please put those into the chat so we can discuss it. And also, if you need any information or any of the panelists' contact information, I also will be adding my contact where you can get in contact with me as well, and we can put you in contact with these professionals. So our next story that I'm going to show, which is not as long as the first one, but this actually is a example of a man being abused. This is a 6-minute video, and then after that, we're going to get into speaking with our panelists. Okay, so I'm going to share it, and this time I'm going to make sure I share it with video and with the sound. Okay. Okay.
About 98% of the time, it's a man hurting a woman. That's according to the South Carolina Association Against Domestic Violence. Dale Wells is a rare case. 2.5 years ago, Dale says he almost died. Tonight, he tells Susan Elizabeth Littlefield how it happened.
I walked out my front door, walked down my 3 steps, and I heard Dale in a very distinct New York accent, and I knew it was Denise. And I turned to the right, and I'm looking down the barrel of a .357 Mackey. She said, "If I can't have you, no one can." The first bullet hit me dead in the center of the chest. The second one went through and shattered this arm in 2 places. I fell to my stomach. She walked up on me and shot me twice in the back. She then laid the barrel of the gun on the bridge of my neck, pulled the trigger, went through, came out here.
That is how their love story ended. This is how it began 3 years before. Dale Wells was the manager of this Waffle House. Denise, a grad student looking for part-time work. Wells hired her.
Click is an understatement. When I saw her and talked to her, it was magical. And I immediately knew that she is who I wanted to be with.
They moved into this home together, first as roommates, but soon they became lovers. Then comes the part of the story no one else knew.
I guess there was always signs of aggressions, not towards me at first.
First, it was anger, he says, then control.
She would come to my job, sit on my job from the time I got there to the time I got off. At first, people thought that was cute. Oh, she really loves you. You know, she wants to be with you all the time, you know. And at first I was like, yeah, that's really cute. But then it got weird.
Wells says his girlfriend never hit him. She took out her anger on the things around him.
Second year we were together, I purchased a pug. Chubbs was his name, my favorite pug. He was just awesome.
One day, he says, Denise didn't want him to go to work. She asked him to spend the day with her. If not, she would kill his dog.
But it was enough for me. And I called and said, I'm going to be a little late to work. And I took Chubbs to a gentleman who had 3 other pugs. And I explained the situation to him. And that day, I'll never forget, he sat there and he looked at me and he said, are you sure you want to get rid of Chubbs? Maybe you should get rid of your girlfriend. Hindsight, I wish I would have made that decision.
Wells broke up with Denise. She moved back to New York. 2 months later, she came back, surprising Wells on his birthday.
She said, I came here to kill you on your birthday and to kill myself. And I said, stop playing. Why are you saying that?
Wells says she'd been living outside of Greenville, beside a shooting range, learning the ins and outs of a .357 Magnum. But she didn't pull the trigger. Not this time. The two lost touch, didn't speak until months later, in June.
About 6:15, I received a phone call. We talked for about 20 minutes, cordial conversation about the weather, golf game, just cordial, pleasant conversation.
Wells says the phone went dead. He walked out his front door to take out the trash. Denise was standing by the steps. Police say this gun was in her hand.
She said, "Do you remember what I said I was going to do to you?" I said, "Denise, don't shoot me."
This time, police say she did 5 times.
A gentleman was running up the street screaming, stop shooting, you're hurting him." He grabbed my hand, blood was shooting out of my mouth like a water faucet. I said, "What is she doing? What is she doing? Is she reloading?" He said, "Brother, you don't have to worry about her. She's laying dead at your feet."
Denise killed herself after she thought she'd killed her ex.
I got the notification and said that we actually had a murder-suicide.
High-ranking at Columbia Police Department, Captain Thomas Dodson didn't always go out on scenes, but he got a call that this one was big.
When I got there, to my surprise, he survived and was being transported actually by the time I arrived. And she was there dead at the scene.
An open and closed case, Dodson says, the worst case of its kind he's ever seen.
As far as female versus male, it would rank at the top of the scale.
2 months in the hospital, Dale Wales only has 1 lung. 2 bullets are still inside of him. Another he wears as a necklace. Wells still has trouble breathing and walking, has yet to return to work. He spends his days giving speeches, trying to stop domestic violence and break stereotypes.
You can't handle your woman? What's up with you? We're too embarrassed to call the police and say, I just got hit, slapped by my wife.
Pride is what he says silenced him for too long.
I was blessed. Through God's grace, I'm still here, able to tell my story, wearing my bullet, wearing my scars.
And so ends the story of a love lost and a purpose found.
What makes Dale Wells' case so rare, experts say, is that if a man is abused by a woman, in most cases, it's a case of retaliation. Local advocates call Wells a true victim. Dale Wells has been traveling the state for the past few years since this happened, working with other survivors of domestic violence. And one of those survivors he fell in love with. Dale Wells has been married for 1 year. He says he wants people to know that there can be love after abuse. Now, the stats on domestic violence against males are a bit sketchy. Advocates believe that's because it's underreported, because men are ashamed to come forward. We have a list of resources on WISTV.com for anyone who wants.
Hi, Margie, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Sorry, trying to do this by myself. So I'm hoping that these stories that you see are actually bringing to light some of the things that we see in relationships and some things that we may miss on the outside looking in. And so as you can see, we have some very good women who are going to share their story. And this is our panelists. We're going to have each one of them to introduce themselves. We have with us Kia Cherie, who is the founder of House of Sheba. She's a model coach. We have Nita McNeil, who is an empowerment speaker against domestic violence. We have Monica Gother, who is the founder of Kia Foundation. We also have Jennifer Yolanda, who is the founder of Youth Parent Elevation Network. We have Margie McLean, who is also a panelist a speaker against domestic violence. We also have Miss Kimberly McLemore, who is a founder of Women's Small Business Initiative. I'm not sure if Nikki is on. I know she was having some issues with her internet. And then, of course, you already met Miss Sabrina Mackey. So if each woman can just kind of give a brief introduction of themselves, starting with Kia, and we'll go from there, and then I'll start my questions. All right, Kia.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I want to first say thank you to Margie for giving me the opportunity to speak out on domestic violence, even being a part of her panel. Met Margie, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. As she mentioned before, I'm a model coach, and I also have a company, House of Sheba, which I started about 7 years ago. I've been coaching for about 5 years. I've been a model for almost 10 years. So my platform actually spurred from domestic violence and, just low self-esteem and not really feeling good about myself. So it was the perfect opportunity for me to branch out and do something that was attached to this. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity. And, hopefully we can together, every woman on this panel can hopefully reach out to someone that's watching and be able to touch them, and they be able to move past what's going on in their lives.
Thank you, Kia. Nita?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shanita McNeil. Hold a bachelor's degree in social work. It's a pleasure to be here today. My first experience with domestic violence was actually being in domestic violence relationship or marriage. So this really hits home for me. So Margie, thank you so much for having me. I am very excited to be here as one of your panelists. And I hope that something I say encourages anyone who is experiencing domestic violence to come forward and say, hello, I need some help. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Monica?
Good afternoon, everyone. I am definitely so honored. My name is Monica Garthier, and I'm the founder of the Kia Foundation, which stands for Keep Empowering Yourself Abundantly. And we are a teen dating violence prevention and awareness program. And we focus on teen dating violence because we believe that not only with my own experience, Ms. Sabrina, I shared with you as well, I was very young in my DV relationship. And when you were telling your story, I was just on the edge of my seat because it's so similar. It is so similar to my story and so similar to young women that age who have no idea of what they're going through. I was 16 when my abuser first beat me. The same thing as you, Ms. Sabrina. I was 18 when I had my first child, pregnant again at 19. And at 7.5 months pregnant, my abuser beat me so bad that I went into labor. And the same day as my son's birth is the same day as his death. 2 months later, we got into another fight. And at this fight, this time, because I had a weapon, I was arrested and charged as the abuser. And now I'm in jail facing 3rd-degree assault. So the Kia Foundation really looks at how did we get there? How do teens get there? How do adults get there? What is that learned behavior? And we try to take away those myths. We try to debunk those things and then try to really fill with prevention and awareness what a healthy relationship is. Okay, you're telling me what an unhealthy relationship is and what the bad signs are. I need to look at what the new healthy relationships are so that I can build that way. The Kia Foundation is named after my cousin Kia, who was killed by her abuser in 2013. We developed a safety plan. She was leaving Georgia, coming back to North Carolina, and a week before she was scheduled to be here, he found her and shot and killed her in front of her mom. So domestic violence hits home. It hits home for us in so many different ways. And I am just here happy to share our story, some resources, and how we can get the word out here. So Margie, thank you so much for having me. And I thank you other ladies for sharing this platform with you as well.
Thank you, Monica. We also have a video of Monica speaking to us with Alamance Gifford section of the National Council of Negro Women. She came in, and we also had a young man who came in. One of my Masonic brothers came in and shared his story, and that was actually the first time of me actually hearing a man share his story of domestic abuse as well. Next, we have Jennifer Yolanda. Jennifer?
Hi, my name is Jennifer Yolanda Okosin, and I am the founder of Young Parent Elevation Network. Young Parent Elevation Network is a personal development company for young parents ages 18 to 35. We focus really on how to strengthen yourself, your inner core, your inner self. So after healing through DV or any other trauma that you have in your life with a therapist or counselor, then come to our program to strengthen and rebuild yourself. So from the inside out. So we focused on character development, effective communication, self-care, and community building, like who is your support system and how we can help build and maintain that support system. So we're basically after you have strengthened yourself or healed yourself from the abuse or from the trauma that you've experienced, you would come to us to rebuild your life and how you'd like to see yourself from then on. So I have experienced domestic violence within the family household with different family members, not me and them, but I've seen or witnessed different family members experience a lot of DV, and I've also been in a DV relationship with my child's father. So you'll hear more about that. Thank you, Margie, for this opportunity. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you. I appreciate it. Christy, next.
Hi, my name is Kristen McLean, and I'm an 8th grade ELA teacher in Charlotte, North Carolina, Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools. I am a 6-year domestic violence survivor, and my experience started maybe a week after I said I do. So my story is similar with Monica, it's similar with Sabrina, and it's similar, but yet I was married, and yet I was trying to figure out how I could save it, even though I knew what was going on, and I tried to hide it from everyone. And this is like going to be the craziest thing because my mom and sister are here. So, you know, they're probably hear stuff that I probably never told them. So this is going to be an experience, but I'm just ready to answer any questions and share anything that, you know, I'm going to share everything if need be. So my whole purpose, I want to help those so that they don't end up in the situation that I am.
Thank you so much. Wow. That's awesome. Kimberly, you're next.
Yes, and hello everyone. My name is Kimberly McLemore, and I am the CEO and founder of the Women's Small Business Initiative. And basically what we do is we provide online resources for any new or existing business that wants to be a business owner or wants to enhance their business. But a big part of the business is that we help women to rewrite their stories. So as we all know, is that we are all here as domestic abuse survivors. And when I say rewrite your story, I am an author as well. So we train people how to self-publish their books. And also I am the host of Your Resource for Success podcast on iHeartRadio and many other platforms. So we also provide that platform available for those who want to come on and tell their story. So basically providing sustainable businesses for those women who are in need, of course. But a big part of my stories is a little different than everybody else's. I was never married to the individual that I was being abused by. And it took me one time to realize what was going on, and I was trying to walk away. As I walked away and we separated was when all hell broke loose. Excuse my language, but the story of abuse, as being talked earlier, is definitely about control. And so I'm looking for some of the resources that are available and talk about the difference of stop being the survivor and stop being the victim and learning how to move forward in your life. And by doing that is providing, like I said, sustainable businesses that can help you move forward and be able to tell your story.
All right, thank you, ladies. I'm not sure if Nikki is on. I know she was having some issues with her internet. Okay, so we're gonna stop sharing. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get into the questions again. If you have any questions, please ask those questions, and I'll be trying to watch the chat on both the live and also on Zoom. So we're gonna get into it. And again, ladies, if you can, the panelists, if you have your information, you can also place it in the chat. And I think the ladies are placing their information in the chat. So we're gonna go ahead and get into it. When we talk about domestic violence, one of the things that my question is, well, one of the main things is once you tell someone that story, they ask, why did you stay? Why did you stay? What was the purpose of you staying so long? If you had that first incident, why wasn't that the first and last incident? Why did you stay?
I'll go ahead and begin with that one.
Okay.
I was married, so we had goals. We wanted to have children. We wanted to buy a house. We wanted to make sure that we were financially stable. And it's so funny when Sabrina shared what she shared, and mentioned about the man or the abuser, the abuser controlling finances, you know, and no, I could not, I'm sorry, that was my phone, I'm sorry. But anyway, I could not, you know, spend money unless it was, you know, talked about through him at all, you know. So my whole thing was, if we had goals and we had, you know, different things that we wanted to do, I stayed because I'm like, okay, well, I'm prayerful. I come through. I was a preacher kid too, so you know, I know about being the virtuous wife and stuff like that. So I'm like, I'm gonna pray this out of him. You know, he was asleep one night, and you know, we talked about alcohol abuse and things like that. And I got some olive oil from Bilo. I prayed over it. I anointed him in his drunken state. I anointed everything in my household. I'm gonna pray all of this out of him. It didn't work. You know, so I stayed only because we had goals, and I knew that I fell for the trick, and the trick was I'll never do it again. You know, so my thing was, okay, well, if he said he's never going to do it again, I have to hold him to his word, because he always told me that a man only has his word. But then I had to find the strength just to look at him one day and just say, you have to go. You know, and I got tired of looking at my house and see holes in the wall where my head could fit through, where my body could fit through, where my dog's head could fit through, because he even abused the dog.
Oh, wow.
You know, so that's why I stayed. I just stayed only because we had goals. But when I saw that that was not coming into fruition, it wasn't coming about, you know, so I'm just out. Yeah. I'm sorry, I stutter a little bit, so I just had to let go of that word. But yeah, it wasn't coming. So I was like, you know what, you have to go. I'm leaving, you know, get out of the house. And that's where it was.
Anybody else? Why did you stay?
I'll say why I stayed. I come from a Christian family. In our church, everybody's married, right? The pastor's married, the deacons are married, you know, the church members are married. And so I was embarrassed. It was embarrassing to leave your spouse. It was embarrassing to go through divorce. It was embarrassing, you know, for people to know that you're going through, that you're being bullied at home. It was so hard for me because I'm the youngest of 6 children. I followed in my father's footsteps by joining the Army. So to my nieces and my sisters and my parents, I was like this little hero, you know, and so I couldn't let them down. I couldn't let the people around me down. So I just, you know, fought through it. And I said, like you said, like when the lady said she was going to pray it out of him. And that's what I did. And then I just became exhausted with praying, and I stopped praying. And I thought in the beginning that I could pray so much that I could change him, or I could just be this wonderful wife and change him. And I learned after 3 years, you can't change anybody who doesn't want to be changed. My father called me, and this was like a turning point in my life. My father called me. He said, he called me on the phone. He said, your father wants to talk to you. And I said, shucks, I'm in trouble. Daddy spoke to me in third person. So I called my sister and I said, well, what does Daddy want to talk to me about? And she told me. So when I got there, he read me like a map, like he knew everything. And as much as I tried to hide from him, he had been praying. The last thing that he said to me was, Shanita, you have a network of support behind you. When you're ready to make this move, make it. We're here. He said, you can either act like you have some common sense now, or you'll speak from the grave. And when he said that to me, it was like a roar, you know. And at that point I said, okay, you know, and I began to feel like I wasn't gonna live to tell this story if I stayed. So I started making, you know, small moves to transition out of that home. So that's why I stayed. You know, it was embarrassing. He said he wouldn't do it again. He was sorry. You know, things are going to change, but nothing ever changed.
Anybody else? One more person? Okay.
Yeah, Shanita, you brought up a great point, and I think, Kristen, you touched on that as well. That shame and that guilt. I think a lot of victims stay in certain situations because of that embarrassment. Who do I tell? Who am I going to get support from? Especially if I'm in a marriage and we have children, how is that dynamic going to look like? My in-laws, what are my in-laws going to think? So I think a lot of that religious belief as well, that guilt, that shame, and just hiding that, a lot of victims can speak to that. And then the main thing too, I still loved him. I was 17 years old. I loved this man. What I thought was love. What I thought was how he treated me was okay. What I thought was, okay, but there's more good days and bad days. And then in denial, I was in a strong denial that if I didn't act this way, then he won't act that way. So I thought I was in control of both of our behaviors. So having that myth and that idea that I can control this situation or control all of that. So you guys touched on a lot of points, but definitely for me, I stayed because I loved him. I did. I was in love. I was head over heels. This is my first boyfriend that I had. I was 16 when we started dating, 17 years old. You couldn't tell me nothing. And I thought I was grown. My parents couldn't tell me what I could do. I thought it was grown. I was making an adult decision. So it was a lot of that misinformation on why I stayed as well.
So when we look at the staying part, and I think you touched on being in love with the person. I'm pretty sure when you first started in a relationship, it was all lovey and dovey. But the question for some is, were there signs that you probably saw and just pretty much kind of put it in the back table, or did it start off you seeing the signs? For those who married, was there signs before you got married and you're just like, because a lot of times in relationships, men do stuff and be like, oh, that's so cute, not knowing those are signs of possible domestic violence later. Or what were some signs that you saw and you decided to ignore, if you ignored them? Kia?
I was about to say I can touch on that one.
Mm-hmm.
I think as far as ignoring the signs, I think it comes down to, that gift of gab. You can use that. They say all the right things. Everything that comes out their mouth just sounds like, oh my God, where have you been all my life? And in all reality, it's just cap. Basically, you're going to fall for it because at the time it makes you feel amazing, not knowing that, somewhere down the line, it's going to be a flip. And I think a lot of times it could be something as small as how he reacts to a certain situation. For instance, my ex used to always, if there was like let's say a football game on, okay, even in the football game, the rage that you see in that person over a football game, you like, I wonder if that's how he act in the argument. Mm-hmm. Then you get in the argument, and that same rage you saw during that football game is even more intense. So it's like little small stuff is what we don't look for to stick out in that relationship. And I think even in something that small, that's a red flag, and that should go off on, even one more instance was we were in the grocery store and I was pregnant and somebody bumped into me with their cart by mistake, clear mistake. And he flipped. Watch where the F you going. And it's like, yo, I'm okay. I didn't die. Baby's okay. Everything's fine. And it's like those small things is going to lead to how he's going to verbally abuse you, how he's going to manipulate you. And that's what you really, really have to pay attention to. And like I said, ignoring that, you're almost inviting the rest to happen. You know what I'm saying? So you got to kind of nip that in the bud right then and there and look at it as a huge red flag.
Okay. Kimberly, what were some flags that you saw?
Yeah, I was going to say, like I said earlier, my situation was just a little different. And the things that I see had started to build up before, or as I wanted to end the relationship, it was some of the things that Kia just said, that, if the anger was consistent, how he would treat other people, and it was always somebody else's fault. He never had any fault for anything, never stood up for being wrong. And a good example was one day we were driving somewhere and we got pulled over by the police. Well, when he got pulled over, they asked for his driver's license. His driver's license was no good. And, that was my fault because his driver's license was no good. So, those little things. And then the biggest thing that stood out to me was how he treated his mother. So the way his conversations with women and how he treated her was unbelievable. So the same way he was treating her, or his sister or somebody else was exactly the same way in the direction that he was treating me. And I seen that escalating, and it just kept escalating. And as it got to that point, that was the first time, you know, when I said, hey, you know, we can't do this anymore. And of course, you know, like everybody says, you know, that, oh, I love you, da, 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 da. I tried to hang in there a few more months. We tried counseling, we tried everything, but it constantly got worse. And those red flags just kept showing and kept showing. And the one first day that he hit me was the day that my life changed forever at that point. So like I said, you do see those signs, and a lot of times we do want to ignore them, but it got to a certain point, and it gets to a certain point where you can no longer ignore those signs. And unfortunately, like I said, everybody's situation is a little different. So of course, if you have children involved, you're going to think differently. You know, my son wasn't in the home. He's grown, gone to college, the whole 9 yards. And I said, me and this guy, we were not married or anything, but all those little things that you find, you know, it got to the point where it was just too much for me to bear. And I found myself not being the person that I was or who I was supposed to be, because I was too busy walking on eggshells being around him.
Monica, what was your red flags?
There were so many red flags. As I stated, I was very young. I was 16. This was my first boyfriend. One red flag was, well, we didn't have cell phone back then. Sabrina, I remember the pay phones because I had a pager. He brought me a pager, but I didn't know the number. And he would page me, and I would have to hurry up and find that pay phone to hurry up and give him a call to let him know where I was. He was isolating me from my family, isolating me from my activities at school. I was a cheerleader. I played softball. I was involved in a lot of different activities in school, and that dwindled down because he wanted all my time. He wanted to be with me, and he loved me, and I thought it was fun and exciting. So I thought that it wasn't jealousy or isolation that he was doing that I should have paid attention to. I thought that, oh, this is exciting. He likes me. He gave me his jacket from school. I was manipulated very well. So those red flags were there, but I saw them in different areas, in different ways. When he first hit me, we were 17 and we went to the store, and I forgot to pick something up from the store, and we were in the car, and he literally just turned and punched me in my mouth. And my first thought was, what in the world just happened? How did this just happen? And then I started to question myself. Wait a minute, Monica, did you forget this? Not was he wrong for doing this, but did you forget this? And then you start questioning your ability and yourself and things and of what you're doing. So my red flag early on was not knowing my self-worth and not knowing that I can have time to myself and still be in a relationship and not always be with this person and be with this person all the time. And they're paging me or taking all my time away, and realizing that time away and time of space is good. So my red flag was definitely just the time together that he just pulled me from everywhere else and just made me that I could only be with him throughout the day.
Jennifer?
May I interject, Margie?
Yes.
All right, so, and I agree with Monica a lot, because my ex-husband told me that he felt like he had only 20% of me, and my parents had, and my sister had only had 80%, you know, so I totally get you. That's what I knew. But a red flag that no one mentioned, and I'm a dog lover, I'm an animal lover. Both of my dogs were abused where I was as well. So you crate train a dog, great. People crate train a dog because you don't want pee on the carpet. So if they had an accident, or even if they drank out of the toilet, they were beaten severely. And I actually had one dog that was, and he ran away. He was smart. He was smarter than I was. But Cooper ran away because he drank out of the toilet, and he was pistol whipped in the face.
Wow.
And like a dummy, I did take the dog, you know, to the vet, but I lied. And I said that we were moving and boxes fell on top of the dog and it hit his head. You know, and that's why he's bleeding for the nose. If you know anything about the dog's anatomy, they are never capable of having nosebleeds.
Right.
It's you know, it's trauma. So Cooper was pistol whipped like his adopted mother, you know, and there's a hole in the wall with the dog that y'all probably saw. She's in my lap a lot, but yeah, she has her spot basically in the wall where her head could fit through, you know. So I had to look that up when he left, and that was a red flag. And I didn't know that was a red flag, that if anyone abuses animals,
the way that they do, then that is dealing with, things dealing with their self-esteem and things like that. If you have to have total control, and that was my ex-husband, he had to have total control. So when I mentioned that he had 80%, I'm sorry, my parents had 80% of me, he only had 20% of me. He didn't like the fact that, my parents wanted me to come over, us to come over. He didn't like that. Sunday dinners were a battle. Why can't you cook me dinner? First Sundays, why do we have to go to your parents' house? It's that control thing. So if he can't control me or the dogs, it's a problem. And that's just what I've been through. So just wanted to lay that out there. If any abuse with animals, I ignored that. Had no idea that was a flag. So just wanted to point that out.
Well, thank you. Wow. And I'm an animal lover, so I'm over here feel like I'm about to cry or something. So I love animals. So Jennifer, what was one of your flags? Did you see the signs? Did you ignore anything?
So I was not married. I was in a dating relationship straight out of high school around 19, I believe, or 20, 19 or 20. And I had my daughter at 21. It was like 5 days after my 21st birthday. So I just wanted to put that out there now. And then I ignored a lot of how he would speak to me. And at that time I was going through a lot with family. We had a lot of family issues and just a lot of family dysfunction going on with my personal family, my brother, my sister, my mother, things of that sort. So my head was very, very clouded, and I just wanted a teddy bear, really. That's all I wanted. So that's how my mind was and how I was during this time. So things that he would say to me, and things that, it was mostly verbal abuse, and then some financial abuse. But his grandmother actually told me that, that's verbal abuse, right? So things like, oh, well, why didn't you call me back in 10 minutes? And, oh, what took you so long? And I'm like, I was just, I was about to call you. So things like that he would say, and I would just not even worry about him being so like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? And I would ignore it. I would just brush it off and act like this is normal. But later on, his grandma actually told me, well, he's verbally abusing you. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what? I didn't know anything about it. I was just like, I don't know what that is. But I'm so used to it, and that's probably why I didn't say anything. I'm used to it in family household, hearing things, name calling and things like that. So that's why I brushed it off.
So when we think about domestic violence, is it always the case where a woman doesn't have a father figure in the home? Or I know that's some of the myths that I hear, that the woman didn't have a father figure in the home. Or maybe maybe you seen it and possibly thought it was okay because you've seen it with your own eyes, with your own parents. Or what are some of the myths that we can dispel? I know Sabrina touched on some of it, and if she can kind of go over maybe a myth or two, and then we'll talk to others. What are some, when we talk about your own experience, what are some of the myths behind domestic violence, Sabrina?
Like you said, that myth of the female not having a male role model. My dad was there. That's clearly a myth. I had both of my parents there. The myth also, I'm wondering, is it a genetic trait or is it a learned behavior? Mm-hmm. Because my abuser saw his mother get beat, and he tried to intervene and stop, and she got mad at him.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Which was like unreal. Then you look at economic classes. I would say my family was pretty much middle class. His mom was a business owner, so there was no poverty level like a lot of people think, because someone lives in the ghetto or they're from the hood or their educational background, they only may have a high school diploma, or they may have started college, didn't finish college. A lot of those are myths. Anyone can be subject to domestic violence. Not clearly, race plays people think only a majority of African Americans are in domestic violence relationships. That's clearly a myth. I know people who make millions and millions of dollars and are afraid to leave because of their platform, because of what other people are going to think. That's clearly a myth. Those are some.
All right. Kimberly, what are some myths that you have heard when it comes to domestic violence?
I think one of the myths that most people kind of don't think about is what our coworkers see. You know, we believe as victims that nobody else sees us and nobody knows what's going on, but that is absolutely a huge myth. In my situation, I went through one of my coworkers after being beaten that weekend, and after coming out of the hospital, I went right back to work like nothing ever happened.
Wow.
And coworkers pulled me aside and said, "You want to tell me what's going on?" You know, so when you think that you're hiding, that's a huge myth. People not being, you know, we think that people aren't seeing what is going on in our world and not realizing, as Sabrina had said earlier, that it touches everybody. So we think we're protecting and not protecting them. Yeah, so that's one myth that I can right now can think off the top of my head that it's something that needs to be dispelled and needs to be talked about more.
To you?
I'm trying to think. Well, I mean, they pretty much Sabrina touched on majority of the myths, but definitely, I didn't have a father in my household. I had my stepdad, my sister and brother's dad, but I think it stems deeper than just the typical myths. I think it needs to be looked at as more of sometimes it could be even generational. You know, prior to me, my grandmother even wrote a book. My grandmother was severely abused, sexually, physically, everything you could think of. And I think it also trickles down to the fact of how we were coming up. Like when I was coming up, I was severely bullied. I was bullied so bad I wanted to take my own life. So, and I mean, I think it kind of helps you settle in that. So once you've become a victim of bullying or a victim of, you know, low self-esteem, it's very simple for you to get comfortable in being abused. It's like everybody said, it's a norm. So I think a lot of the myths are just a way for people to negate the fact that this is something real. This is something that just didn't pop up. This is something that's been going on for generations and generations and generations. But I think, like I said, I think the myths kind of help cover it up. And that's the first thing is, oh, her father's not around. But there's plenty of women being raised in a single parent household that are very strong and independent women. It has nothing to do with that. So I think a lot of times these myths are just, like I said, they're just kind of just to take the focus off of the fact that this has been going on for a very, very long time.
Do you think that women and men stay, and I know we always talk about women, so I'm gonna say women and men. Women and men stay because of possibly they're searching for love and they feel like maybe, you know, I was thinking about you saying the low self-esteem. You're looking for that love, or maybe looking for someone to help you with that esteem that you wasn't getting before, or do you think that's the reason why sometimes women and men stay in their relationships as well? Maybe it's something that they feel like they're missing and they need to get in that relationship?
I think the key point for men is that they're supposed to be the strong, you know, they're supposed to be able to have great pride and stand for everything that, you know, that they believe in. And I think it becomes like more so of not when we say, you know, who's going to believe us, but for them, it's like almost like a joke. Like, are you kidding me? Somebody's abusing you. Like, so they feel like nobody's going to believe them. So it's better to just kind of take it and deal with it. And then sometimes they might be shocked themselves. Like, is this really happening to me? They're a man. They don't expect that to happen to them. So I think it kind of, I mean, we equally deal with it. Men and women both deal with domestic violence. But I think the narrative of it, we look at it as, you know, well, this is the way he shows he loves me. This is the way he shows he cares. And they look at it as, even if I tell somebody this, they're going to look at me like I'm crazy because I'm a man. We don't go through this. So I think we kind of carry it in different ways as far as how we receive the abuse.
Anyone else? It's open.
So, go ahead, Jennifer. Sorry.
I do think we are seeking something when we are going through the relationships. So for me, I know that I was seeking some type of comfort and some type of love, whether it's whatever type of love that meant at that time to me, because it's different now.
Yes.
So we are definitely seeking something that we are not getting, and usually when we go seeking, it's usually outside of ourselves first before we take time to look in the inside to figure out what it is that we may be missing. That's why I created the personal development program as well, because usually what we need is already within us, and we just need to seek within instead of outside of ourselves first, so that when we are getting into relationships, or we are relationships are external, and we need relationships to survive. So you want to be able to go into any relationship with a secure self, that's a stable self. So you don't want to go into relationships actually seeking things that are intangible. Not necessarily, you don't want to go seeking things tangible too, like, yeah, I'm just going to get this person for his money. No, that's using someone. But I'm saying, like, intangible things, you normally can get it within yourself, and need to do that first within ourselves, so that we don't set ourselves up to be taken advantage of, or to for someone to have the ability to control what we do or say, or how we do things. So that's just my idea. I know for a fact that I was certainly seeking. I grew up in a single parent household, and my father was not present most of the time. So I was seeking some type of love and some type of father. So that was my story.
Monica, what's the youngest that a young lady or man can start to deal with domestic violence or domestic abuse?
Well, you have two aspects of that.
Okay.
You have when kids start to date, 11, 12 years old, and they want to start forming relationships. How do they know what a healthy relationship is? How do they know what that looks like? And then you have children who witness abuse, being in their homes, or being in their community, or being in their environment. So now, if it's okay in my community, okay in my family to treat my partner this way, then when I grow up, then that's exactly what I'm going to do, because that's what I was taught in my environment. That's what I was taught in my community. That's what I am being taught on social media now. I was on a panel yesterday, and there was a young teenager up there yesterday, and she was like, one of the fetishes now is being in a toxic relationship. Oh, well, then that's how I know that he really loves me. And if it's a fetish, fetishes only become something that's something to talk about. But if you're feeding misinformation, then we have to re-educate with good information. So if we're feeding that unhealthy relationships is good, or unhealthy relationships is what the norm should be, or excited to be about that, then we need to feed and debunk what that unhealthy relationship is and what that healthy relationship looks like. We talked about, all those different things of why you were there. Jennifer, you brought up a great point. I was looking for love. My mother and father was there, but they was going on dealing with their own stuff, and I was a teenager, and I thought I was grown, so I didn't want to tell them. I didn't want to talk to them. I wanted to handle the situation on my own, because I thought I could handle it on my own, until I was able to define exactly what it was, because I thought if we're fighting, if he hits me and I hit him back, then we're okay. That's how a relationship was. That's what I saw. Kia brought up a great point about sweeping things under the rug. We do a lot of that within our families, within our generations, instead of talking about it and bringing up point. Why is auntie and uncle arguing like that all the time? Instead of someone saying, no, it's wrong, we should stop this, we're all hush hush about it, and oh, that's just how they is. How many times do we hear that in our community? That's just how they is. And it's just like, no, but it's wrong. So why are we steady teaching that instead of really teaching what a healthy relationship relationship is and how to be in a healthy relationship, how to communicate, how to express your feelings, how to deal with anger, because we all get mad.
Yeah.
We all get mad. So how to deal with that and not want to take that power and control and crossing the line to where it's abusive as well.
When I think about Shanita and Kristen and Sabrina, I think it was someone else, but we all have grown up in church. Not saying anyone else. I just kind of picked those out. You know, I know Shanita, her father. So we all grew up in church, and we talk about the praying it away. One of the things I want to know was, how did your family talk to you, or did they talk to you about how to be loved by someone, or talk to you about relationships and what's a good relationship? Or was it just pretty much you learn it as you get older? Or did your family sit down, mom or dad actually really sit down and talk to you about how you're supposed to be in a relationship? And also, when we think about the church, which is a totally different, that's a different question, so I bring that up. Because the church also is another one that can also foster domestic violence as well. We just seen that with the young man who murdered his wife in Florida. So that's going to be a separate question, and that needs to be a separate panel, really. But let's talk about the family aspect. Did they really sit down and talk to you about what's a healthy relationship?
I'll say no. We didn't have a conversation about it, but I saw it. I saw the way my father treated my mother. He treated her like a queen.
Yes, he did.
My mother didn't need for anything. He provided those things. He was a provider. He showed us what right looked like. So when I got into my first marriage, I knew, I then saw what right didn't look like. I'm like, okay, this is not it. You know, I'm gonna try and stay as long as I can and try to figure this out. But I gave myself a timeline, and I'm big on numbers. But I gave myself 3 years, and I said, you know, if things don't turn around, I know it's not gonna, 3 years is not gonna change. But I saw the way my mother and father treated each other, and that's the marriage that I wanted to have. You know, that's the relationship that I wanted for myself. And when I got married, I quickly saw that, you know, it wasn't it. So we never had a conversation, but they set the example, they set the standard. And when the first marriage didn't meet that standard, it was obvious.
Shanita, ditto on everything that you just said, to be honest with you, because my parents, my grandparents emulated everything that I knew as far as marriage, you know, and things that I went through, I did not see. Now, my grandmother sat down and talked to me one day because she did experience domestic violence. And she told me how things will get better because God will give me the right one. And I believe that because the man that I call grandfather right now, you know, has been by her side since my own mother. I don't know, Mom. My mom is on here now. Let's say maybe 6 years old. She can chime in if she wants to. But, you know, he has been there for her. So I know that better would come. But yet, from what I experienced, yeah, everything was, you know, it was there. That foundation was there. So that's what I was looking for. But like I said, you know, a week or two after I do, no, it wasn't there. You know, and that's why I was trying to save things. So I was like, maybe it can work, it can happen. But it didn't. It never did. You know, so I let it go.
As a matter of fact, I'm actually Kristen's mother.
Hey, Mom.
The day that she got married, I don't know why my husband felt so compelled to say what he said. He went into the room where our still son-in-law was getting, and he told him, he said, I need to talk to you. He says, now I'm not accusing you of anything, but if you ever feel like you're getting ready to raise your hand to my daughter in any way that is not a kind, gentle, and loving way, before you do it, you pack her up and send her back to us. Don't ever let me hear that you've put your hands on my daughter. And even at that moment, he got angry about it, to the point where his best man had to calm him down.
Oh, wow.
So whenever it was time for the minister to say, who gives this woman away? No. Is there any just reason why these two shouldn't be joined? We should have stood up then and had given him all of the reasons why we felt like they shouldn't be married.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
That's deep. That is.
I'll just, my parents didn't give me a talk. My parents were married 45 years till death. My father passed away. They were married. I saw it. I saw the love. I remember my older sister and I were working a part-time job together, and I had gotten beaten over the weekend, and I had on clothes trying to cover it up. I had big bruises on my arm, and I had rubbed my arm, and my sister got up from the break room table, and she said, "I'll be right back." I thought she was going to the bathroom. Our conversation, we finished our lunch, we went on with our work day. As soon as I got home, I went to my parents' house. I sat in the kitchen, and my mom immediately came to me and lifted up my shirt and my arm and said, "What happened to you?" And I said, "I ran into the door." And she said, "You are lying." And that conversation started from there. And she said, "Love doesn't hurt." And at that point, I was 18. I mean, I thought I was grown. But realizing now, love didn't hurt, because my parents didn't hurt me. They loved me. My father, God rest his soul, a minister, the look, the anger and rage in his eyes was like, if you ever put your hands on my daughter again, like, it terrified me, because he was a minister, man of God, but when you got kids and your kids are being hurt, that take you to a whole nother level. And he disclosed to him and my mother both said, she does not have to marry you because she has a child by you. And I thank God for that, because one of us would have been dead. Either me doing something to him trying to save myself and my children, or him killing me. And I'm so glad that I did not end up marrying that individual, because back in the day, our culture, you get pregnant, you get married.
Right.
But my parents told me I did not have to marry this individual, because I was worried about what other people were going to say about them, because I was a PK and having a baby out of wedlock.
Yeah.
But that didn't matter. That didn't matter to them.
So do you think the church fosters domestic violence?
Woo! Okay, so what cat you want me to put on? Because I am a minister, licensed minister as well.
I'm a PK, so.
But I come with a disclaimer. Lord, somebody might be seeing this and they might take it to my bishop, but it's okay, because he called me.
And this is talked about, so.
Because I'm not super holy, I'm not all of that, but the church can hurt. The church can hurt, because sometimes individuals go to the church for help and they get that, oh, just take it to the Lord and leave it there. But I'm here to tell you today, the matter of fact, God gives us common sense to take it to the Lord and get a therapist, a life coach, resources, and put those together and have some divine intervention in a plan and get out safe.
Yes.
That's what the Lord really wants us to use, is our common sense that he gave us. So when someone from the faith-based community, tell you just pray about it, go ahead and pray about it. Leave that part at the altar, but go through the yellow pages, Facebook, contact a friend or whatever, and get you some resources to go with that. Because so much, me being a PK, me being in the ministry, I have been church hurt. Oh, I got the eyes and the look. Roll, oh, she got a baby. Her daddy the preacher. Okay, he the preacher, I'm not. At that time, I was not. But you can't do that. In our population, our community, we're so quick to sweep stuff up under the rug. Shh, don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. Well, it's time for us to talk about it. It's time for us to break those generational curses, because there's not going to be a change until we start talking about it, until we start giving these resources. I have family members, and I literally had to shake one and I said, Look at yourself. Look at you. You out here walking around in a daze. You crying. You got bruises all over you. This is not you. This is not who you were. So yeah, the church, yeah, I have my mixed emotions. And I'm not gonna say everyone is bad, but you gotta use your discernment and know who you can go talk to within your faith base. Because sometimes you can't go to the minister. You may have to go to the minister's wife. You may have to go to one of the old mothers of the church. Or you may have to reach out to a younger person that has a professional background in that.
You know, Sabrina, let me share with you when after Kristen and that man separated, I can't even give him a name on air, but anyway, I was the one concerned about, well, what are people going to think? You know, because of who her father is. However, I was pleasantly surprised because those sisters in that church rallied around her. They embraced her in a way that was just incredible. They had stories. Oh, did they have stories? And that supported her so well and helped her to understand, I'm not alone. We know this is not normal, but it's good to know that I'm not alone, because I couldn't relate to what she was saying, because I'm 36 years into a marriage, but she was only, what, 6 years into a marriage?
Yes, my 6 years.
Yeah,
That's it.
so I couldn't relate to that, but these older women in the church helped her to see that this isn't a new millennial thing. This has been going on for years with women, and they suffered in silence. But they helped her, and I'm sure many other women in the church, to know that you don't have to suffer in silence anymore.
Right.
Can I call out?
Can I piggyback off of your comment, Mama?
Yeah.
And there's a lady in my church, because of what I went through, I talk to her every other week, and it actually inspired her, because of my story, to file for divorce. You know, because she knew what she was going through. And that's why I wanted to be on this panel today, because there might be a woman out here that that's going through what I'm going through, and what the women on the panel, what they're going through, and they just can't find a way out. And this woman found her way out. It wasn't necessarily domestic. Yeah, it was domestic violence. It was emotional abuse. But you know what? She found her way out. And because of how we talked together, you know, she talked to her attorney, and she's now out of this marriage today. You know, so I figured out my purpose, my calling right now. You know, if I could sit here and talk to just one person, you know, if one person doesn't have to be pistol whipped, if one person, you know, doesn't have to be thrown through a wall, I know that my purpose in life has been fulfilled. You know, because I've been there, and God allowed me to live through it, to share my story, and to help people out, help women out, you know, of their situation. Now, I'm sorry, I'm not a man. I can't help the man in that situation, but I hope that they can have, you know, the courage and stuff to move out. But, you know, as far as women is concerned, you know, we're looked at as the weaker sex, I guess, and we don't have that strength. But we have that strength. We just have to find it. And I finally found it, you know, so I'm grateful for it. So I just wanted to add that in. Let me go on mute.
Kim, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I did. I wanted to say, when we were talking about the church, I found that my experience was very opposite, where we had the church come in and do the counseling for us, and we didn't even last, but I don't know, maybe a few hours of counseling, and the main thing Deacon said to me, said, yeah, you need to pack up and you need to leave. It was immediate, because as you know, we were in the environment of everybody as a whole. You didn't see the things, they didn't see the things that I was seeing or dealing with. But when we were separated and we were one-on-one, I mean, immediately the anger, the ignorance, you know, everybody else's fault, all of it came out at once. And he was like, yeah, we're done. You need to pack up and you need to go. Because this was not going to be the relationship that was going to work. So yeah, so it definitely, you know, church can definitely be a negative, but it can also be a positive. And I was so thankful at that point. That was definitely a positive for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have a couple more questions. I'm going to try to be done by 6 o'clock and try to open it up for the floor for anyone that has questions. As you know, I am an educator, and so we see a lot. My first experience with domestic violence with teens was when I became a teacher at St. Paul's High School in Robeson County, North Carolina, and it was a young girl there who was being abused by her boyfriend. Like, it was pretty much like she almost had to rush the gym, and she talked to a guy, you know, maybe for instance, like a male friend, and he would get really upset and things. And at first I saw it, but then it just started blowing up. And, you know, I'm that teacher that a lot of kids come and talk to. And so some of the students started telling me what was going on, but they said that this young man also saw domestic violence in his home where his mom was being abused, and mom would, you know, kick him out, but she would always come back, and, you know, they all would take him back and things like that. So I guess with that being said, how does domestic violence, how does that affect our kids, especially with those who decide to stay? If you have children and decide to stay, how does that affect your kids? Is Monica there?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Okay. How did it affect your kids, or did it affect your children?
At the time of my incident, first off, personally, I only had my older son. I have 3 children now. Mm-hmm. So after my oldest son, he was young. He was under 5, but he still had to have a relationship with his father. And the effect for my son, I think, was, how do I continue to have a relationship with my father when my dad did these things to my mom? And I had to be able to provide information for my son. You can't learn something unless you have those resources and that information to be able to understand. And I had to be able to take my son aback and really show him and tell him that, you know, these behaviors of what your father is doing is not right, and really talk about them. They were near death, and really talk about and model, and Kia, you brought that up, being the model of what a healthy relationship was in our household. Mm-hmm. Now that his father was removed, I needed to rebuild that for my son. Mm-hmm. Because at that point, I made a decision that the buck stops here. My children, my daughter, my sons, my nieces, my nephews will not be a victim and will not be an abuser. So how was I going to make sure that this behavior does not continue? Because our environment sometimes shapes what we do and what we see and what we put out there. So my responsibility was changing my son's environment, changing what he saw, making sure that, case in point, I have a daughter now who's 19. I don't watch reality TV. I think everything on reality TV is toxic. That's just me personally. That's just Monica. I don't know nothing about no Love and Hip Hop. I don't know nothing about reality housewives of Atlanta. Now, my daughter, she could run down the script to you and tell you that. So as she's ingesting that information, is me as a parent, my job, me and her, are be able to sit down and talk about those behaviors that she's seeing and emulate and role model something different. You see girlfriends on this show, but this is the way that they're talking about one another. Let me show you a healthy girlfriend relationship. I have friendships with girlfriends from 30 years. So let me show you what that really looks like. Let me not let you take that information that you're getting and let that be your all in all, so you can go out and emulate that as well. So my job as a parent was to always make sure that the buck stopped here with me. Not another child, not another person in my family was going to be able to experience this abuse and nobody talk about it, for one, and nobody bring it up, for 2, and nobody deals with it, for 3. Absolutely not. And in my instance, I probably could have told my family, and I chose not to, because of all those things that we talked about, of that shame, of that, oh, I have to handle this myself, or this is Monica's issue. Monica will be able to resolve that. And when teens start to date, they're uninformed. If I'm 11 years old and I'm thinking I'm knowing what a relationship looks like, and I'm getting into a relationship and I have no idea that it is abusive because of what's going on, because I don't know what to counteract to that is, I'm just going to continue to emulate that same behavior and continue to emulate what that looks like as well. So as being an educator, Miss Margie, I urge all educators, bring that awareness into the schools where the kids are. Start talking about it. We have wonderful, wonderful billboards for and movements for suicide, for bullying. Where's our for teen dating healthy relationships? Because if 1.5 million high school students have been punched, hit, slapped by someone in an intimate partner relationship, the data is there. Why are we not counteracting and putting something in there to bring them numbers down? Wait a minute. And then 83% of parents had no idea that their 1.5 million students are in an abusive relationship. How come we're not communicating with this?
That's right.
You know, so I think for the Kia Foundation and for myself personally, that awareness and that education. I can't teach my son how to be a better husband and be a better partner and be a better spouse. I'm not a man, but I can show you by the relationships that you see that your mother's going to be in, by the relationships that I'm going to bring around, that my daughter's going to know what her worth is, because I'm going to display that whoever is in my life.
Right.
And she's going to be able to see that as well. And then we're going to come to the table, not only show that, then we're going to come to the table and have those conversations with our kids. What is your relationship like? My parents never talked to me relationship. I was, if you kiss a boy, you're going to get pregnant. Don't get pregnant.
That's what I teach my students. Hold a hand.
Literally, that was it. We never had those conversations. I literally thought I was dying when I kissed. My mother found out I kissed the boy. The next day, I had a doctor's appointment. What in the world is going on? I was so scared. So I had no idea. Because of that false information, because of not having that communication with me as a teen, because I was scared that if I kiss somebody, then I pop out a baby. What in the world? Now I'm shameful because of that. So having those honest, open communication and relationships with our kids, that's where that healthy relationship starts. That's where it begins. And if they don't get it in the home, the next best thing is they're in school 8 hours a day. Who else are they going to receive and get that information from? It has to be put in educational ways and things that we can be feeding that information to children.
Kia, do you have any feedback? Did it affect your kids? Or?
You know I do.
I know.
So first thing is, if there are women on here that do have small children, please get out for them. If you don't get out for you, get out for them. I'm only 34. I had my first son at 19. When he was 2 years old was the first time he saw his father put his hands on me. And at 2 years old, he's like, "Daddy, you know, why you do that? Don't do that, Daddy." And he's 2. So he really doesn't understand. Now you fast forward to me getting into a marriage with my youngest son's father. And, you know, things were rough in the house with that. And my son at 10 years old ran away from home. I couldn't find my son for 6.5 hours. It was the longest 6.5 hours of my entire life. He left the house and I had no idea where he was. Now, for those of you that don't know me, I'm originally from Philadelphia. If you know Philadelphia, you know that's a rough city. Okay, a lot happens in Philly. It's a huge city. And at that time, we lived in Frankfurt, which is a not so pleasant place to live. My son was missing for 6.5 hours. I had no idea where he was. When I finally found my son, first thing out his mouth was, "Mom, I hate him. I need you to move us. When are you going to move us? I don't want to be there anymore." And at that point, it was like I was kind of teetering, like, do I stay in this marriage? Do I get out? Do I stay in? Do I get out? And at that point, when my son ran away and I had to have the police look for him and find him, and I had a conversation with him and he told me why he left, it was a wrap. I said right then and there, I cannot go through this again. I will not be in the position where my child feels like he has to choose and make that decision that he has to run away to get my attention. So the only thing that I could really say to any woman, if you do have small children, if you don't do it for you, you do it for them. Because at the end of the day, in the long run, it's going to affect them. And what you don't want to happen is, like everyone's been saying, it's going to be a generational thing where it's going to continue, where you never know what the next move is going to be, especially for your children. So if you don't want that to be a situation where you're beating yourself up later on in life because you let your baby sit there and watch you suffer, get out for them.
Can I touch on the generational thing real quick?
Yes, I want to ask that question next. Yes, please.
So my ex-husband witnessed his father abuse his wife. Not wife. Well, yeah, his mother, his wife. So as a child, he was even abused by his dad sexually and physically. You know, so I guess for me, and I'm glad that she mentioned this, you know, there are some ties there, you know, and I remember I was so frustrated one day. My mother-in-law or ex-mother-in-law looked at me and said, "You're going to be a Rayner woman," and that's my last name for right now until the courts change it over. COVID hadn't done it yet, but it's about to happen soon. But you know, I'll always be a McLean. But anyway, but what she told me was that this is what Rayner women go through, and I'm like, is this acceptable? This is what we do, you know? So it's like we have to put up with the men and what they want to do and how they treat us in order for us to gain some type of clout, you know? And I couldn't deal with that anymore, because when I look at my own last name, looking at my grandfather and my mom's last name, you know, or now my grandmother's new last name, they didn't go through that. You know, but they're trying to make this a generational thing, but you can break generational curses.
You can.
You know, and it's there. You just have to have the will, you know. So if you're brought up, you know, because your dad abused, you know, their mother or your mother, whatever, he was always a drunk, you know, you can always overcome that and make your own life. And that's what I try to instill, but it has to be within the heart and the mindset of that abuser.
Yeah.
And if they don't want to accept it, run fast. Yeah. So that's all I have to say about that part.
Thank you, ladies. Do we have any questions? We're going to open up for the floor. Is there anyone on the that's on the call here would like to have any questions for our panelists? Anybody? Or have a comment they would like to add?
I would like to.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm just so delighted to be on the call today. I found the link accidentally, and what I'm listening to and what is sad about Domestic Violence Awareness Month, after the month is over, we seem to kind of, you know, go away.
Yep.
And I am a survivor of domestic violence. And I have OJ to thank for it because he put it on the front burner in '86 of April 4th. I call that my 9/11, where the twin towers of my heart and soul plummeted to the ground, leaving me to care for 3 children. And I remember calling the police, and you know, how does it feel to call the police on somebody you love? And when the police came out, I began to, you know, have this feeling of ambivalence. You know, you love him, you hate him, and you know, when he's really nice, he's nice, and when he's bad, he's bad. And they looked and assessed our situation, and they told me to, well, you know, you look like a decent family, and I had 3 children. And they said, well, we can call back to the station and get you a counselor. And I said, well, no, we had a wonderful counselor, and he hadn't been listening to him. And he said, I tell you what, how about your pastor? It's not possible because he is the pastor. My husband was the pastor of a large church in Birmingham, Alabama. We were on radio, we were on television. Where did the first lady go when she's bleeding? Who does she tell?
Yes.
And we find out that, you know, in the African-American home, that what goes on in this house stays in this house.
Yes.
And we're like, you know, this is a shame. This is nothing you speak about. And the church that, the organization that I'm in, we frown on divorce and remarriage.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I wanted to get out and had no way of getting out. I felt the shame. I didn't want to be a single parent. And in the words of Kenny Rogers, you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away. And it was my 8-year-old, when we were talking about the children, she said, Mommy, she said, that could not be my husband. She said, why don't you just leave? And I'm saying, this 8-year-old has more sense than I have. That night the police came, I told them, officer, all I want you to do is let me pack a few little bags and get my kids out of this situation. He said, no, officer, I'll leave. And he did this sign like she's crazy. I said, I'm not crazy. I said, he said, well, where are you gonna go? She has no family here. And I said, well, don't they have a shelter or something? And I found out that they did have a shelter, and they took me to the shelter. But the worst thing that I did, and the worst thing a person could do. Loving thing you can do for an abuser is to leave, to get out of Dodge. And I went to the shelter, but what I did, I went to morning service, noonday prayer. I went to Wednesday night Bible study, and nobody knew that I was living in a shelter. My MO was to come late, leave early. And what happened, I found out that one of the ladies who went to our church, I didn't know at that time, was working at the shelter. She saw me. And when she saw me, she says, oh, Lady Lewis, please don't tell me Pastor did this. Well, my eye was sitting out here like that.
Wow.
And of course, they would get in trouble by breaking confidentiality laws. But she went and told our bishop, and our bishop disfellowshipped him based on that. And he asked me, why did you stay? And you stayed because I never liked the sound of a single parent. I didn't like the idea. I was a stay-at-home mom and hadn't worked in 11 years. Where do you go to, you know? So I thought it was safer to, you know, stay in that relationship. But children would rather be from a broken home than to be in a broken home. And the Lord blessed me. I prayed about it, and the Lord gave me strategic things to do. After I prayed and fast, the Lord gave me a plan how to get out of it. And one day he was gone, and when he got back, nothing was there but the light bulb. And today it's been almost 31 days, 31 years. I left on Valentine's Day, and that's the best decision that I could have made. My kids were healthy, they're whole. And you know, when you think about how am I gonna survive? I'm not working. I had to go back to work. The Lord blessed me with a car. He blessed me with a job. Everything I needed. When the kids got to high school, I was worried about college. How am I gonna pay for that? But God has a bigger plan. He financed everything. I went back to school. I got 2 degrees, and I mean, I'm doing fine. And just recently, the Lord blessed me to build my own home. I just built a brand new home. Never thought I could.
That is awesome.
Do that on my own. So I'm grateful. And I've made myself a committee of one. Before I left Birmingham, I'm now planted in Huntsville, Madison area. For about 26 years, I worked at the YWCA mentoring women. On Monday night, we've had high as 60 women in the group, and I began to tell my story. I know why we stay. I know how we can become a liar. When he would ask me, did you put my suit in the cleaner? And I know the suit is still laying in my car, and oh yeah, I did it. Oh, where are my socks? I spray some Lysol and throw them in the dryer. Oh, here they are. And I mean, I done it all. But thank be to God, there is a way out.
Yeah.
If you want out, God will get you out. And you know something I share with women? I didn't have to drop no drawers to get nothing paid. Everything when I left, God gave me a house, a transitional house.
I know that's right.
Working for a job. Didn't have to pay light bill, gas bill, or nothing. I just had to earnestly be looking for a job. And then an opening came just by me sharing my story. The city of Birmingham, and I'm gonna be quick, allowed me to come aboard and share my story at the Birmingham Police Department. And I worked there 25 years, mentoring women in what we call Project Safe, going out on calls with women who are affected by domestic violence who say, I don't want to leave. This is my stuff. This is my house. And when I finish talking to them, now you can always replace stuff, but you can't replace your life. So I live for that. There's a saying, wherever your misery is, there is your ministry. And I live for that. And I was looking at Miss McLemore. I'm probably going to need some help with you. I was in the midst of writing a book, and the title of it is, I've already bought the dress and ordered the cake. And that's the book.
Wow. I like that.
Before you say I do, because you have no clue. You're in la la land when you're dating. And dating is for data. Look with your eyes wide open. Judge Maybelline say, look deep before you leap. And I'm just glad God has blessed. And I'm so glad that you had this panel today. I'm just overjoyed and bursting at the seams, because this is where we need to empower our women to do better. They can come up higher. They don't have to. I don't want another woman on my watch to go through anything that I have been. And we can make ourselves a committee of one, each one reach one. God bless you.
I like that. I might need to make a shirt, not on my watch. I have to do that, make a shirt, not on my watch. Hashtag. I like that. Thank you so much.
Look, Miss Lewis, you have been an inspiration. I'm not even gonna lie to you. You have given me so much joy right now with everything that you have said. So I just wanted to tell you that if I ever visit Alabama again, I would go through Montgomery, Alabama at Old Ship, Amy Zion Church. That's the last church that my grandfather pastored. But I would go there and I would roll through Birmingham, and just to look at you and just to say,
and come on down.
Will do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That was, yeah. We need your contact information, Miss Lewis, if you can put it in the chat. What church you go to, Miss Lewis?
I go to Infinity Church, formerly Greater Grace.
Okay.
Here in Madison.
Okay. That's awesome. Anybody else have anything? I don't know if we can go behind that. Let's pass the offering plate. And
yeah, so I just wanted to piggyback on that. Thank you so much for your story, Miss Lewis. You're such an inspiration. And when you said reach higher, you know, I just thought about my own story. And I meant to share a little earlier when Margie asked the question about affecting your children. I didn't want to share it first because I'm just like, well, she wasn't born. But then I was just like, well, it still affected her because I was pregnant with her and she was in my belly during the time. So quick story. So before actually going to jail, I don't know who shared that they had been in jail or whatever. I think it was Monica. I'm not sure. Monica, right? So that's part of my story as well. So before this night, there was a woman that called my phone, or there was a lady that called my phone saying, hey, you know, I had to call the police on him because he hit me. And I'm like, he's never hit me before. So I'm like, okay, are we talking about the same person? You know, this can't be because he's never laid a hand on me. So I'm just like, who is this person you're talking about? But obviously she was talking about the same person and she had his phone. So I'm just like, okay, you do have access to his phone. Where is he at? I'm not sure. You're saying that he's in jail now because you called the police on him for hitting you. He was supposed to be visiting his mother. That's the lie that I got. And he wasn't, obviously. So I'm just like, this is crazy. Okay. So he blows up my phone that night and I just couldn't deal with the stress at that time. I was just like, I'm not going to stress. I can't deal with this right now. So I'll call you in the morning. Thanks. I'm going to go to sleep on this one. So I did. And we started arguing. He started, you know, insulting me. And then we just went at it. And then I told him, well, you know, we can meet up to discuss this and I'll see you then. So we met up. I had my sister with me. I did lie to him and say that, you know, nobody is with me because I didn't want him to not show up or what have you. So my sister comes with me and he's there. I'm just like, great, he's here. He's not going to fly anywhere. So I'm like, okay. We talk and then the talk ended up to be physical. And I was just like, wow, this is really happening. But he was actually more physical with my sister. So I was pregnant at the time and him and my sister's fighting. She did provoke him a bit. And she did call him names. and he was just upset about it. So they started fighting. But at the same time, it's like, you are verbally abusive to me, but you can't take anyone saying things to you. I'm just like, okay, you're going to physically fight my sister in front of me. This is not happening. So that's what happened. And then that night we left. Basically, we all got kicked out of the store and we left. So we're thinking, okay, we're leaving. You know, this is a done deal. But no, it wasn't. He called the police and lied and said that we beat him up. And I mean, and I'm 5'5" and you're 6'1". Really? This is not happening. Like, really? So we both went to jail that night, and then all I could think was, oh my gosh, this is really happening. The next day, my daughter her heart rate was really low. So after I got out of the jail, her heart rate was extremely low. So I almost lost her. If I had stayed in the jail any longer, I would have lost her. With that incident. I went to the doctors, and the doctor was like, wow, her heart rate is like 11 right now, because I wasn't drinking water and didn't get any, barely ate any food, and I could barely sleep that night. Wow. So that's how it affected her when she was in my belly. However, I did not want it to continue. So after that, I, did what I can do legally to keep him away from me for as long as possible, so that it won't affect her even more when he's actually born. So that's how that happened. So I just wanted to share that. So me taking the initiative and taking the act of actually getting a restraining order against him and actually going to the child custody services as soon as I could when she was born, and doing all of that, proactively handling things, it gave us the distance that we needed so that we can come together in a civil manner later. And now all of our conversations are very respectful and very civil, and we don't have any issues. And my daughter didn't witness us in the midst of our arguments and verbal, abusive language and whatnot. So she does not know that about her father at all.
Wow. This stuff is heavy. We won't be able to get through all of it because there's some other questions that I have. We're running at 6 o'clock. Thank you, Jennifer, for that. When we look at some of the things that we're talking about, we have to go into talking about the church and a little bit, listen, how they foster, and they do, whether we know it or not, want to accept it. The church foster, we foster our family, generational families foster. I think, was it Christian who said something about, I can't remember. No, it was Miss Lewis who said, we do teach that whatever happens in our house stays in the house. And a lot of times that is because of family and, your name. You don't want your family to be seen a certain way and things like that. You're messing up the family name. So whatever happens here stays here. And that's what we teach. And so as things is happening, you do not tell anything. And so you foster that a little bit. And so we have to be able to start talking to our children and talking to our family members that whatever happens, please come and let us know. When we think about domestic violence, we also think about hitting, but domestic violence is verbal abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, whether sexual abuse also. And so financial abuse, as someone said, so one thing I know my mother taught me is, when you get married, you put you some money away, because in case this man start acting crazy, you have some money to get on out of there, and don't let him know what you have. You just put it away, put a little bit away, and you have your own stash. And, a lot, we teach, we are one, but at the same time, you just not let you go into a marriage or a relationship thinking something's going to happen. But as you can see on the panel, things happen. And so, what if you didn't have that way out? What if he isolated you from your family, or she isolated you from your family, and you could not get back to your family or talk to anyone? Or, sometimes we isolate ourselves so much that our family don't even want to talk to us. And so how are you going to go back and tell them, hey, I am being abused, and are they going to help me? So think about that. And as we if you see anybody that needs that help or see those signs, a lot of times we see signs and don't say anything. We want to stay out of it. and this person is being abused. And sometimes they may not say anything, but they give you some type of sign that, hey, I need help. And they waiting for you to say something, and you don't say anything because you want to be out of that. Yes, spiritual abuse is another one, making scripture. Yes. Yes, that's why I say the church foster. I too grew up in a church where you know, you don't do too much divorce, and if you do divorce, you stay unmarried and things like that. And so a lot of women or men, they stay in the marriage because they want to be with someone. And so and the other one is part two. And another one is, if I do the part two, is definitely going to be talking about the church and domestic abuse, definitely. So is there anyone else that have anything they would like to say? Miss McLean, Gloria McLean, Kristen's twin. I think her sister's on here. You know, can you talk about how it affected your family, how it affected you and your children finding out or knowing that your daughter was abused?
I would love to hear from my mom and my sister. My sister, and I'll let you speak, Mom. I'm sorry. I just definitely cut you off, and I'll pay for it later. But I would love to hear from my sister and my mom. And my mom has, I mean, not my mama, my sister has witnessed actually some things, but my mom has not.
Okay.
So go ahead, Mom. I'm sorry.
As far as the family goes, we lived under that same umbrella of what goes on is a private thing, and we don't need to share this. But what we allowed Kristen to do was to share what she wanted in her own time, because we really felt like the whole family needed to know this stuff. We come from a very, very close family, not just the immediate family, but I'm talking aunts and uncles, cousins. We're all very close. And this really hurt the family in so many ways. Not only did it hurt us because of what Kristen has shared with us, but we trusted this man. We took him in and treated him like family, not knowing that all along this man was hurting someone that we loved so dearly. And there was really nothing that we could do at that time legally without going to jail. Yeah, but it was very painful, very painful. And Kristen, the way she shared this with us was she had us over for dinner. And she says, there was another reason why I wanted you over. And I asked her, I said, well, what is it? She says, come with me. She took me in different parts of her house. And she said, you remember this hole that was in the wall here? That's after she moved this big ficus plant out of the way. I said, yeah. She says, well, that's my body print. So right then, my whole body just went numb. And then she took me in another part of her house. And she says, this dent in the wall here, that's my forehead.
Wow.
So by this point, you know, I am almost in tears. And then she took me to another part of the house. And she says, you see this stain on the wall? Yeah. Well, that's the beer bottle that he threw at my head. And luckily I was able to dodge it. So I honestly felt very helpless because this had gone on for so long, and it's kind of like you miss that window of opportunity to have this man arrested. Because had I known any of this prior to, that man would have been so far in the jail, it would have taken 2 lifetimes to get him out. But there's nothing that we could do. So we really, truly, the whole family felt very helpless.
Christian sister on?
She is. I can't talk right now because,
Gotcha.
I know.
You done got me. So,
yeah, I understand. Still affecting. Shanita, I think Shanita said she want her sister. Is her sister on? She want to speak?
She's here. I'm not sure if she's
okay.
If she wants to talk, but I'll say this on behalf of my family. I didn't tell them because I was afraid of how they would feel or what they would do. in my defense. So that's why I held it from them. It hurt my sister, and she was the one who went to my father and told him the things that I had told her. And that's what prompted the phone call from my father to let me know that he knew what I was dealing with, and it's time to make a change. So I don't know if my sister can hear me, but I thanked her for saving my life, because I don't know how long I would have stayed if my father and I had not had that conversation.
I will say with you, Shanita, you know, of course, I met you through, you know, my sorority sister, Sharice, if she's on here still, because I know y'all was good friends at Douglas Byrd. Unfortunately, Douglas Byrd, but you know, but I know I remember your wedding, and you know, I saw some signs. At that time, I didn't feel like I was close enough to say anything to you, because it's like, okay, I'm not your close friend. I'm just a friend through Sharice. But I saw things that I was like, you know, this girl don't need to get married to this man. But, you know, I just didn't feel like it was my place at that time and things. And so, of course, going through it and then seeing you, talking to you later after the fact, then hearing some of the stuff, it was just like, yeah, that's some of the stuff that I saw, you know, or what so have you. But, you know, sometimes we can see the stuff, but because we're not close to that person. And I think for me, I remember in junior high, a friend of mine who was dating a guy, and I had another friend who went to school with the guy, and somehow we started talking about this guy, and she was like, yeah, you know, this guy was trying to talk to me and things like that. So, you know, being a friend, I go and tell my other friend about it, and she jumped on me about that and was like, I'm lying, your friend is lying. And then after that, I just decided I would never say anything to a young lady about a woman about her man, because she's not gonna believe me. And so with that being said, that's just how I was. I just stayed out of people's relationship unless it was to the point where I felt like it was bad enough. But some stuff, it was just like, don't say anything, because they're not going to believe you anyways. They're going to stay with the guy. They're going to believe what the guy says. And so that was, you know, with that experience was one reason why I really didn't feel like, you know, coming up to you, especially on your wedding day, asking you, you know, are you sure? So, but I will say that if
a couple days after the wedding, Margie, it went down. Even on our way to our honeymoon, we fought in the car. I was driving. We fought in the car coming down 95. So I knew the day that I got married that I shouldn't have married him, but I had ordered the dress and ordered the cake. You know, everything was paid for. And it was like, how do you turn back? How do you not go forward and do this? Okay, well, maybe things will get better.
So hello, I am Shonda, Shania's sister. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I wanted to chime in a little bit. When Shanita did come to me and tell me, you know, the things that were going on, I kind of sat back in my chair and I did a little, so, oh, really, type of laugh. And from that point, I was like, okay, well, you know, I said, well, have you talked to Daddy about it? And she said, well, no, she was scared. I mean, like you guys said earlier, you just didn't want all your business out.
Yeah.
But I just felt in me to make sure that he knew we had to put that to an end that day.
Yeah.
So I went to my father and I confided in him and I said, well, Daddy, I said, you know, there's some things going on, and I just kind of beat around the bush. And he said, Shonda, come on out with it, baby. And so I told him what was going on. And he sat back in his chair and he said, well, let me tell you something right now. He said, I thank you for coming to let me know. He said, but I will save your sister. He said, none of my children. He said, she is the child of Moses. That's my father's name. He said, and I will save my child. And that day she received a call. And I do thank you, Shanita, for acknowledging that. But I mean, I love my sister. So, you know, when you're in these types of situations and somebody confides in you, sometimes they don't want you to go and tell anyone. They don't want you to say anything. But it's very important to get it out.
Yeah.
It is. It is.
But I love you too.
I love you too.
Awesome.
Hello, Margie.
Yes.
Hi.
Hey.
I just wanted to chime in real quick. I'm Yvette Bright, and
I came on today to support my dear sister Sabrina, and I just want to congratulate all of you ladies, and thank you so much for sharing. I too am a survivor of domestic violence, 2 relationships. So yeah, it was a lot just to hear and see the videos. Like the videos really took me to a whole nother place. I was like, oh wow. But definitely if you do a part 2 about the church, that would be great. I am in ministry, and it's funny because you're dealing with this, and me, I was a worship leader at the time, so I was expected to come in church and sing God's praises and bring the glory in the house and set the atmosphere, and was dealing with it as soon as I hit the door and immediately when I left the church. So it's amazing because the church doesn't talk about it, and we keep it under the rug, and it's, oh, because you're in ministry, you should be able to pray your way through it and seek God for yourself. But I just wanted to chime in and say thank you again for the platform and for opening it up, and surely let's keep it going even after October. Let's tell young ladies, young men, listen, you can get out of this, know the warning signs. And it's sad because the signs are there, just like the young lady said about the animal abuse. I was like, oh God, I forgot about that. Yeah, he beat my dog too much. Her ribs were broken. And I'm like, stop, you killing her just because she ate the chicken. Well, you left the chicken out on the stove, so what do you expect? She was hungry. But he beat her literally till her ribs was cracked. And I mean, she's whining and crying, and I'm trying to jump in and get her. So, you know, it's crazy, but we've got to keep this awareness out. So, you know, I thank God that he allowed those of us to survive and get out, so we can get it out there. We can tell others, and we don't have to be ashamed about it. And we can tell our stories so others don't have to do as much as we had to.
Thank you so much for that. And also, you know, I say tell it. I know for me, I have cousins. We have a lot of cousins, and I have some cousins who they're not afraid to shoot you. You know, they get that from my grandfather, I think. And so sometimes we be afraid because we don't want our family members to get hurt, or we don't want the other person or our family members to hurt someone else. And so we don't say anything because we know how our family members are. But I know for me, you know, when I date, I just let them know, I'll let you meet my uncles and my cousins. And if you try it, then, you know, this is what you're going to have to deal with pretty much, just to let you know. I know in high school, I was kind of naive because my dad didn't let me date anybody. So, you know, so I had a little boyfriend my first year in high school and 10th grade year. And, you know, here it is, a senior, he likes me. And so, but I saw some signs that I thought was cute, but at the same time, you know, looking at it now, I was like, yeah, this guy was controlling. I mean, I remember standing at getting my stuff out of the locker, and this guy was talking to me, and all my boyfriend did was he just walked past. I didn't even know he was there. He had walked past, and he was just standing there, and I seen the guy like get so, you know, he was just like, okay, well, I got to go to class. I'm like, okay, in the middle of the conversation. And when I looked, my boyfriend was standing there, and, you know, he didn't want me talking to anybody. So to me at that time, I was like, oh, it's cute. You know, I'm his girl. But later on, of course, we broke up eventually. And I didn't tell my father about it or anything, because one, I wasn't supposed to have a boyfriend anyways, you know, so, but later on, I found out that he was an abuser of someone else, and that could have been me. So just the little signs like that is the things to watch out for. So before we end, because we are well past where I want, the conversation is really good. What I wanted to do was to give our panelists one last thing. If you can tell a woman, a young lady, or a man anything when it comes to domestic violence, what would it be? What would you say? And I'll start with Kim.
Wow. So what would it be if they're going through the process of being abused? Or, I mean, the biggest thing that I found that I think is the most important is, like we've all talked about, is sharing the story. But I think the one thing that most people don't do, most women do not do, is they don't follow through. When you know that you're ready to walk away, don't just walk away. Make sure that you have your advocates with you. That's the legal system. Utilize that system. Make sure that that abuser is put behind bars. I made sure mine was put behind bars for 10 years. 10 years. That's important. So it's not about just them walking away. It's about getting them off the street so they do not harm another individual. So I think that's the thing that I would leave with any woman or man who's being abused. Make sure you follow through and have your advocates next to you.
Thank you. All right, Sabrina.
I would tell anyone, listen to that inner voice. You are really not going crazy. You know when something's wrong.
Yeah.
You know your discernment. And the other thing I would say is you are not alone.
Mm-hmm.
You are definitely not alone. Don't think like you will be left out here in this world with nowhere to go, because there are people and places set that will assist you. So that's what that's what I would tell someone.
Mm-hmm. All right, Kia.
Main thing I would probably tell someone is thinking about the fact of I was preacher grandkids, so I'm gonna go spiritual. But thinking about the fact that God will never, ever, ever give you his worst. He will always give you his best. So if there's a situation where you're dealing with a man that's this way, that's a demon and you need to cast that out or get rid of it in some kind of way. So at the end of the day, remember that God made you whole. He didn't mean for you to be broken. He didn't mean for you to be misused and abused. So keep that in mind, that once you get rid of this bad situation, he is going to replace it with something so much better.
Mm-hmm.
So,
thank you. Monica?
Wow, everybody touched on a lot of things already and said some wonderful, inspiring things. But, and I will just piggyback off the rest of them. One, you're not alone. There's resources, there's help, there's housing, there's shelter, there's ways to get out. So develop your safety plan. You don't want to wait, because the later may never come. So talk with somebody and get somebody involved in it, and know how to legally protect yourself. Seek those resources out there. Document, as someone just put in the chat, document everything, and reach out for help. There is help that is there, that is available. You don't have to deal with this alone. This is not just your issue. This is everyone's issues, because it affects us all. It affects us all. And in order to make a change and in order to bring change about, we have to be able to educate everyone. We have to be able to bring awareness to everyone. And as Ms. Lewis talked about, it's not something that we should just be doing in October. We should be continuing these conversations. We should be having them in our churches. We should be having them around our family tables. We should be having them amongst our peers. We should be talking about it just like we're talking about everything else, because this is a pandemic. DV is happening. It's happening at a rapid rate, especially in this pandemic. The more number of cases that have increased. I can't run to grandma's house right now and get to safety and get away from this argument. I have to stay here. And when people are confined to places, now we're starting to learn, you know what, I really don't even like this person anymore. I'm confined in this space, and I'm learning who you are, and this is not cool for me. So talk with someone about it. And definitely for parents, have those conversations with your kids. Don't assume that they know what a healthy relationship is as they start dating. As they're 18, 19, 21 years old, have those conversations and provide those things with your kids of what a healthy relationship looks like and where to get help if you're not in a healthy relationship. And there's plenty of help that's out there in order to get it.
Good. Kristen, you?
I was about to piggyback off of Monica really quick. I'm sorry, I'm a hot mess right now.
I know. I was like, are you sure you're ready? I've been watching you.
Yeah, I'm good. But okay, so if what she is saying, yes, don't be afraid to talk to those closely in your corner, because I'm getting text messages and Facebook messages like, you're doing so well. And I do appreciate that. But it took me 2 years of therapy, and I wasn't going to go. But my dad, actually my parents, I'm not going to say my dad. It was most of my dad because he knows someone, but it was my parents that said, hey, you need counseling. And it took me 2 years to talk to someone, and they had to let me know that all of this was not my fault. Because for 6 years, everything was my fault. I could walk through the door, say hello, and something would happen. Oh, you just ruined my day. It is all you. Every time it's you, and I'm like, all I did was walk through the door, you know, but because of counseling, I was given strategies. You know, I'm just giving certain things I need to do to make sure that I'm okay mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And if y'all are watching, yes, there was a dog and she loves to sit in my lap. You know, that's the dog with the head through the wall, you know, but we have a story. She can't tell hers, but I can tell ours.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we're able to sit here and relive a new life right now, and we're okay. You know, so my thing is, if there's anything that's going on, please don't be afraid to seek help.
Yeah.
You know, just because you seek a counselor, therapist, whatever, doesn't mean that you're crazy. But yes, you are broken. And between that and prayer, yes, I'm on the Christian background. Between that and prayer, you can be fixed. So just seek those two. And I promise you, between God and a good counselor, you'll get through.
Mm-hmm.
And I got through, and I'm okay now. Today wasn't a good day. I did relive some things, but you know what? It's cool.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I'm able to work through some things. So,
but Kristen, I just want to say today is a great day because that's part of your healing journey.
Exactly.
You're healing, and there's never going to be a moment to where it's just going to be that I'm fine, I'm done, and I'm over this.
Right.
Healing is every day.
Yeah.
Healing is an everyday struggle in order to get up and to say that, you know what, I am okay. I have gone through this. So enjoy your healing journey. And healing isn't, okay, it's going to be cute all the time. Healing is that big, ugly, nasty cry, that big, ugly stuff that you have to deal with yourself.
Yeah.
That's healing, because that healing empowers you in order to strengthen you to go further. So beautiful. Enjoy this healthy healing journey that you are on, and congratulations.
Will do, sis. Thank you.
Shanita?
I would say find your inner strength and save yourself.
That's awesome. Find your inner strength and save yourself. And I think someone put in, Maxine Lewis said, it's easier to lie on the couch than to lie in a casket.
Yep. Amen.
Because at the end of the day, that's where it's going to end up at if you keep allowing this person to do it and say they love me and it's going to be okay. After a while, you're going to hear sorry, sorry, sorry. And then after a while, you're not going to hear sorry anymore. It's going to be too late. And then your parents or your family going to have to now deal with that. So not only they dealing with, you know, you dealing with it, but then the aftermath of you not being there anymore. The purpose of me doing this was to, and I'm gonna tell you, I'm a type where I like to bring the ugly out, and I won't say the ugly out, but I like for someone emotions to come out and show. I don't want it to be where it's just professionals talking. I want people to tell their story and let other people see that people are actually going through this, and to see what these people look like. You know, like you said, it's not someone who's, you know, poor or anything like that. These are educated women, and we all have been through something that we're dealing with. And it's okay to tell your story, and it's okay that you went through it, but come out of it. I would say you've gone through it, but come out of it. And, you know, it's going to take some time for you to heal on some things, but that's your timetable. You're not going to heal as fast as everyone else. That's your timetable. But we pray together that you do heal, and also seek some positivity around you. Make sure you know, like I think someone said, I think Sabrina, know who to go to and know who you need in your circle that will help you with that. You can't bring everybody in your circle, because sometimes they'll bring more negativity than they do positivity. And then you reliving that all over again. They want to talk more about the situation than talking about how you're going to heal. And that's not what you want to focus on. One last person that I would love to hear from, if they could tell a young lady, either before she's in a situation or while she's in a situation, you know, talk to a young lady or man. I would love to hear from Miss Lewis if she's still on. And then we're going to get on out. Is Miss Lewis still there, or she already left?
She just walked away from
she just walked away? Okay. So anyways, I thank you ladies for coming on. Thank you for sharing your stories. Is Miss Lewis there? There she is. Hey, Miss Lewis. I call her Mother. Mother Lewis.
My battery was running out.
Oh, it's okay.
My battery. Okay.
You know what I want you to do is, if you can talk to, since you was a first lady going through this, and again, the reason why I did this is because of COVID. And I was seeing how the numbers are going up with abuse. And every time that I pull up my computer is either a child being abused, a child being murdered, or a man being abused or murdered by their wives or so on. I was like, it has to be something where we stand in this confined place, and people are starting to get kind of crazy a little bit, and women don't have nowhere to go now, because a lot of times with some women and men, going to work was their safety net, and then they have to come home to this craziness. So while I'm at work, this is my free time, where I'm not being abused. So I was like, we're doing COVID. Let's just talk about it. Not just because of October, but I just felt like it was just something that we need to talk about. But Miss Lewis, if you could talk to a young lady or a young lady in the church about this situation, what would you say to her? If you can just give some type of word of encouragement, what would you say?
Okay, first of all, to a lady in the church, a lot of times they're in denial. They wear the mask, and as much as you may share your personal story, they'll still be in denial. But what I found out that's helpful, pump her with information. Let her know, hey, you may not need this now, but you may want to take a look at this later. And I would let her know that it's I believe you. A lot of times when they come to the church, and sometimes well-meaning pastors only re-victimize them by telling them you should pray a little harder, fast a little harder, be submissive, things that, they think she should be doing. But I would let her know I believe her, and I would be there to support her. I would give her, some stats, about domestic violence, and just, keep my line open, call me day or night, because you may not need it right now, but it's gonna come a time that you'll need my help, and I'll be there for you.
Thank you so much. So we are coming to the end. I think I would like to thank everyone, all our panels. I appreciate you sharing your story. I thank all of those who came on, the parents, Miss McLean, and also I think the sister and Shanita's sister coming on, and the rest of you who have shared your story, if there's anybody else. But I thank y'all for coming on, and thank you for giving time. I know it's not as professional as I wanted it to be, but really I just want to come on and just do webinars and just get the information out there. If you are looking for a part 2, let me know. We definitely can do a part 2. It was just a lot for me. It was really, especially Christian, when you said that he was abusing the animals. I mean, that really got to me right there, because I am definitely an animal lover. I'm like, good Lord. I hope this helped. I hope this was a way for you to understand domestic violence, and also how to help someone, and also how to notice the signs, whether you're in it or whether you know somebody or see somebody who are in that sign, and you can definitely help them. I thank y'all, and I think this will be the end of our of the panel. I appreciate it. Love y'all, and y'all have a great weekend.
Thanks for having me, Margie.
Thanks for having me, Margie.
God bless.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Ladies, we gotta stay connected.
Yes, if you can, put your information in the chat, and what I can do is I can actually save the chat, and if you can, put your emails in the chat, and I can save the chat and send it to everyone, if that's okay.
Yes, that's
okay.
Fine.
So if you can do that real quick, just put your information in the chat, and then I'll just save the chat. And just to let you know, I will be doing some more seminars. I also do business seminars as well. So I will be doing one on housing, how to get your house, first-time home buyers. I will be doing one on human trafficking. And also, I think I did another one on teen domestic violence. And I definitely would do one on mentoring, mental health, which I did last year. But I think I'm going to tackle mental health within the church and why it is a stigma in the church. So actually going to talk about that. And that's only because I go through my own mental health of depression and anxiety with my father passing. It's just gotten worse. So we definitely, and I, like somebody else, I sing on the praise team as well. So I definitely want to tackle that mental health in the church. So we'll be talking about that too. So
Margie, I gotta get this out to you real fast. I was just telling my brother, literally, I'm going to screenshot you the text message, that if we don't do nothing else, if we don't focus on these mental health issues in the church, man, I'm trying to tell you,
Come on, somebody. Yes.
Crazy right now.
Yes.
Like it's going crazy right now. And I think the problem is everybody, like you said, not even just with domestic violence, everything just gets swept under the rug.
Yes.
On all aspects. So mental health in the church is a huge, huge topic. I just told him, I said, I'm getting ready to go back to school for my nursing degree, but I also wanted to try to get a minor in mental health and apply it to the Christian background that I have.
There you go.
So yes, if you need somebody to help out with that, girl, I got you.
That'll be in May. That actually will be
I
in
got
May.
you.
Yeah.
I got you. You know, I already tapped into all those feelings with self-esteem doing model coaching. So I got you.
Well, just to kind of give a background on that, when I moved to Virginia, it seemed like every year I had a family member that passed.
Wow.
And when I found out, it's always someone called me early in the morning. So now when a family member calls me, or my mom would call me early in the morning about something, I always get the anxiety that somebody passed, because that's what happens, is either late at night or somebody early in the morning. When my cousin passed, she was like my sister. When she passed, I know we're still on. When my sister passed, Jemiah Reed, that put me in a whole different element of depression, where I'm good at wearing a mask. So I would do well because I stay busy. People know me, I'm always in something, I stay busy. But at night I would sit home and I would cry, and then I'd go to church and I sing and things like that. But then after a while, you know, it gotten to the point where with her, I actually was going to go to a medium to be able to talk to her, and that's how bad it gotten. And I used to pray, instead of praying to God, I used to pray that I want to see my sister, because I have a gift. I have a gift of dreams, and I also have a gift of seeing. That's my gift, my spiritual gift of seeing things. So I was just like, you know, I want to see her. I want to see her. And so one of my cousins was like, yeah, she came to me in a dream, and I'm like, why she didn't come and talk to me? She was close to me. So it had gotten to the point where one day I was just sitting in church. I really literally was dying spiritually in the church, sitting and just depressed. And I just had gotten the notion to go and talk to my first lady and another mother, Mother Foster, and I pulled them to the side and told them, I'm just sitting here dying. I'm depressed. I'm just, yeah. So, and I told them what I was doing. And, she, you know, my first lady had talked to me about praying to spirits, to see spirits, because you don't know what you're bringing into the house. You may be thinking that you praying for one spirit to come see you, but then you just bring a whole bunch of other stuff in. So I stopped doing that. I didn't go and get help for that. And then this year, my grandmother passed in January. About 30 days after that, her sister passed. And then my father passed in March, all in the first 3 months of this year. And when I say that my dad that's taken me out to the point where I was driving to church. I go to church at Refuge Temple. My bishop is Reginald Davis, First Lady Charity Davis. I was driving to church getting ready to go for practice, singing on the praise team. And I had stopped to get me something to eat. And when I was coming out the light, a transfer truck was coming down the street. And something just told me to pull on out of there. It was just like, pull out, you know. If I would have pulled out, that transfer truck had no chance of stopping. I would have got ran over and everything. And it was just like the Lord was like, And so I didn't. But it was to the point where I didn't even want to be here anymore. I just wanted to go be with my dad. That's it. Because I'm a daddy's girl. I'm an only child. You know, that's who I talk to. I didn't have anybody else to talk to when I needed advice. You know, my dad was a preacher too. So he was the type, do you want to talk to the preacher or you want to talk to dad, you know? And my dad was the type, he take anything and it turns into a sermon. I can say I hurt my toe, and the next thing you know, he's talking about where the Bible said we are one, you know, we all are, you know, he just turned it into a sermon. That's just how he was. And so with that being said, I just been kind of going in and out of depression a little bit. I didn't want to tell anybody because everybody come and talk to me, and I do these type of seminars, and I'm a mentor and blah, blah, blah. So how can I mentor someone when I'm going through this? So I just kind of do it in my silence, you know, my own. So with that being said, I'm slowly coming out of it, but I'm not quite there yet, because every now and then, you know, I just have my moments of, gosh, I wish my daddy was here. So I think depression in the church is definitely something that we definitely need to tackle, because some people would take that and, you know, you need to learn how to pray, and you're supposed to be more spiritual than that, and keep forgetting that we are flesh and we deal with things. So yeah.
Come on, somebody.
So with that being said, we gonna talk about that, you know, and getting that help and stuff. And it's okay to get professional help.
Yes.
So after COVID, eventually I will go and get the help that I need to get the cry out and all that good stuff. So, but yeah. So yeah. And yeah, I know I'm live because somebody probably need to hear this anyways. That we call it the aftermath or whatever. So.
Honey, and find you a safe place. You ain't gotta wait till after COVID. You got sisters on here. We've all been through something. If you need somebody, you call us. We holler, scream, kick. We gonna cry, pray, and get it out. Been there, done that. I tell you, COVID is done even for me. Like, it has changed my whole perspective of being single and all. I've done some seminars as well, and whoo. But yeah, you gotta wait, get it out now, cause yeah.
Yes, that's who I go to, Margie. That's we on the phone every day. Girl, let me tell you. Woo! Yeah.
The thing about the church is we just gotta find a safe place. It's sad because we in church and a lot of times we can't vent to our sisters. Like, I'm closer to a lot of my other sisters that I don't fellowship with, or not now, but before. You know, you couldn't really talk to the women in church because it wasn't a safe place and you didn't want your business out there. So my thing is, like, Sabrina knows, hey, I need a safe place. Listen, I call my sister. I don't need you to say nothing. I just need to say this. I need to get this off of me. And then we do what we got to do. We pray, whatever. We laugh about it. We cry about it. But, you know, you got to find that safe place and get it off of you, because if not, it'll take us out, because you're doing a great work. So the enemy knows that, and he's going to try whatever he can to try to stop you from doing what you got to do. So, you know, you get what you need, and honey, keep it. Yeah.
So, you know, the Lord had put on my mind to start like a little small Bible study type thing. I'm not a minister or anything, but it was just pretty much getting women together and we talk about different topics in the Bible. And I've been doing it now for maybe about a month, I think maybe 2 months now. And it has really blessed not only me, but the other ladies as well. I didn't know why he had asked me to go ahead and do it, because I'm just like, I ain't a minister. It's not my, you know, job or whatever. But we just started off on the topic, and it just seems like the topics that come to me would be topics that the ladies, you know, either was talking to somebody about, or it was something that they was thinking about or something like that. And so it has really blessed them. And I mean, we're talking ladies from Maryland, Virginia, Tennessee, and here in North Carolina. And it really has blessed them. Like, when you listen to their stories, they also have stories as well. And they feel like it's a safe place for us to be able to discuss the word, discuss some of the things we're talking about, dealing with, and not necessarily being judged. So that has really been a blessing for them. So that's how I kind of release my way. So, but I thank y'all ladies for coming on, and I'll be keeping in contact. Find me on Facebook and let's link up. Please let us know if you having something, that way we can support you as well.
Amen.
All right, y'all have a good night and a great week.
Good night, everybody.
Love y'all. Good night. Bye-bye.